Calling the special township board meeting of Maine Township Board on Tuesday, May 14th, 2019, a few minutes late, at 7:04, in accordance with section 80-10B of the Illinois Township Code 60 ILCS 1/80-10B. This meeting was called by Supervisor Laura Moranis and Clerk Gilemis. Wait, I have the meeting to order. Clerk Gilemis, can you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Gilemis, can you take the roll?
Assessor Roy McCry.
Here.
Highway Commissioner Kazmierczak. Here. Clerk Gilemis here. Supervisor Moranis.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee McKenzie.
She is literally, I think, pulling like a couple ones.
Call that a here.
I think you.
Trustee Carabota. Here. Trustee Sweet.
Here. Okay. So, first order of business, public participation. And do I have any public participation? Okay. Moving along, I'm going to make a switch here. In case it's a workshop, and the person who's presenting for the road district has a bigger time constraint than the health insurance lady. So,
Bill Loftus.
thank you. Bill Loftus is going. Is the board okay with that, accommodating this gentleman?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. So, Catherine's okay, board's okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So my name for the record
Talk
is...
long.
No, I'm keeping it brief. My name is Bill Loftus. I'm the president of SpaceGo Inc. We're at 9575 West Gates Road, Rosemont, Suite 700. I'm standing in for Ted Ward tonight, and I've been asked just to put on a couple of minutes. All of you should have received in your board packet an executive summary. The word we entitled the Roadway Inventory Maintenance Analysis, the executive summary. And we were asked by Commissioner Kazmierczak to just try and take a very cursory look at what we should be budgeting, what the township should be budgeting for a roadway replacement program. So we did some very quick and simple math. We basically took the total linear feet of roadway, converted that into square yards of roadway that you currently have under your jurisdiction, and we guesstimated the average life expectancy for a road given the general assumption on traffic volumes. We came to a 60-year life expectancy, which seemed fairly reasonable, with some periodic maintenance. So when you look at these numbers and you look at this graph, we said in order to basically repave your entire system, reconstruct your entire system, you have to turn over that whole system in a 60-year cycle. But in order to maintain those roads for 60 years, you have to basically account for a 15-year maintenance plan. Does that make sense to everybody? So what you've got depicted on this chart, and we've randomly selected streets. I'll go over some of the assumptions we made. But basically, we're looking at 7 streets in year 1 on this graphic that I have up. I just randomly selected one page out of your packet. The blue would indicate, the blue shading would indicate the street that was scheduled for a complete reconstruction, while the gold or yellow shading would indicate the maintenance program for that given year. Doing some additional math, we came to the quick realization, and like I said, I'm going to go through these assumptions because they're very important. They can alter the conclusions of this report very easily. But order of magnitude, it's my understanding you have been budgeting around, say, loosely $400,000 annual basis for your roadways. In order to look at this assessment, we think you should be closer to $780,000 on an annual basis. Some of those assumptions I mentioned before.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can we just pause for a second?
Right.
So that, we
So
just want to make
this is
sure
trustee
that
McKenzie,
every-
so she can,
she's just settle in and
No,
then just
sorry,
No
30
problem.
seconds.
No problem.
and I may ask you just to.
Since you're giving us valuable information.
I'll go through some of that again too. It might not hurt to hear it a second time anyway, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We switched because of time constraints.
So just, I'll back up a little bit. So very briefly, the board I have to my right here is taken directly out of the packet that each of the board members should have received. And what it depicts, the years are across the top of the graphic with some random road names in no particular order down the vertical axis of the graph. And in the colors indicate, the blue would indicate complete reconstruction of a roadway. That basically means you're digging out the complete roadway, subbase and all, and replacing it. Where the gold portion of this graphic represents an overlay or a maintenance issue associated with that road. Those maintenance issues are associated with like a 15-year cycle, so it would happen 3 times within the 60 years, the 60th year being the reconstruction. Now, when you're discussing your budgeting for your road program, coming out of this discussion or for later in the month, the things you should consider. We're not at year 1 on all these roads, and not all roads were created equal. Some of them might be on soft underlying soils. Some of them may be high traffic areas or high visibility areas, and so public safety is a greater concern. Some may have been built so robustly that they have very little traffic on them, that their actual life expectancy could be beyond 60 years. So my recommendation is to look at your budgeting, see if you can get it closer to this target number, understanding the constraints that every government body is working with. But then the next step would be an assessment of those roads. The first couple of years would be relatively easy, because I bet you everyone on this panel knows those roads that are in really bad straits and off the top of their head name them. And those would be, earmarked. But basically what we would do is be rating your roadway network, just like you would at school, like an A to F type rating on the roads. Those roads that graded out the worst would be the ones, especially if they're high traffic areas, would be the ones that you'd want to push to the front of your road program. Does that make sense?
I have a question. So from what I thought, so this is, just to clarify, this is for the permanent, funding the permanent road fund, correct? Is that what it is, Molly?
No, it's essentially the applicant. We're spending the $777.
You gotta talk a little louder. Sorry.
I said, this is the applicant, $777,000 a year.
If you did the goal of what we are supposed to do.
Supposed to, but I'm not, that's not gonna happen. So, we'll get into it when we're actually talking about the highway budget. But, it would be nice to have the capital fund or the road improvement fund spread out over 3 years where it won't be anywhere near that amount, but it will be a higher amount than you do maybe 2 or 3 extra streets a year.
But you included, very helpful, I thought, in your packet, a list of the actual
Yeah,
streets.
then I added this evening a 3-year plan.
Oh,
This was based on last year, with the director at the time prioritizing the streets for 3 years.
did you prioritize, did
No,
this?
this is Bob Brzezinski.
Oh.
So you can pretty much rest assured it's accurate.
Well,
So,
can I just get clarification?
no, I'm in the middle of a question, I'm sorry. And then you can. My question is that, this is prioritized, Wally, from worst, I assume?
Yeah, but streets that should be done.
So that if, we didn't fund it, they know that those streets know where, to come to.
Yeah,
fairly accurate?
Yeah, they're,
I mean, D Street, I mean, we all sort of know D, okay.
yeah, it would make sense that those would be
Okay.
the more criticism and critique than the one that was done last year.
So, but the one that you had in the packet, that is still the, time frame and the 1 year plan,
Yeah.
right? Okay. And, okay, sorry, Susan, I recognize.
Okay, just want to get clarification. You had said that these are just some of the random streets, not necessarily all. Is that correct?
I was referring to this
Is that
document.
correct? Okay.
As your Commissioner of Highway said, this page that was added to our report goes into the specific streets that were earmarked for 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Okay,
So
are
those
these
are
all the
actual
streets?
Pardon me?
Are these all the streets, or do we have
Oh, no,
some
this is
streets?
only a fraction.
This is a fraction.
Yeah.
Okay. And,
I'm sorry, Susan, are you asking if the 3-year plan is all the streets, or?
well, I guess
Or
the
the
first thing
1
I'm
year?
asking
No.
is, there's multiple charts that we have, not just the one you have up there, and it looks like there's 4 of them. So does that cover all the streets?
That's correct. The
Okay.
4 charts represent all the streets. I just took out one excerpt
Okay.
of that.
Oh, so the 4 charts do cover all?
Yeah, so this is
Oh,
all, and then this 3-year plan is a subset.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I
Alright.
just want clarification.
But it's all the rolling streets you're talking about in Maine, is that all, is it all the streets in Maine Township?
Yeah, the one within our executive summary, which has all, I think there are 4 pages that look like this, represent all of the streets within your under your jurisdiction.
Okay, and is that the 3-year or the 1 year?
No,
That's the 60-year.
that's a 60-year.
And maintain.
Right, that's what, okay, that's what I think I wanted them to understand. That is one of the jobs that, okay. I got it. That we have to resurface, and these are due for resurfacing. And you put them, or they're put in the order.
Well, this is prioritized, that's just an example of how you're supposed to rotate, repaving, and reconstruction.
Okay. Any further questions for me?
So does the order of priority change if you look at this whole year? Like, let's say I'm looking at Robin Drive, because I personally know that street and think it needs construction. Looks like it's not up for resurfacing until 2021.
Correct.
Where can I find that on this page?
Number 6 on 2021, that's Robin Drive. So let me see, Sam, let me see if I can find Robin Drive myself.
Second page, number 80.
Second page.
Number 80.
You mean in the 1 year?
Brady.
Oh, and
Okay, so, number 80?
Is Robert Drive.
Oh, yeah, it's Robin Drive.
Okay, so, if I'm understanding this correctly, looks like in year 10,
So actually, let me walk you through Robin Drive, it's a great idea. So we just took these streets, remember, these weren't assessed, but if you look at number 80, and it's Robin Drive, and you'll see, and you basically draw a line across Robin Drive until you hit the graphic, you'll see that in a hypothetical world, year 11, Robin Drive would get an overlay, okay? And you
we
would
get, I'm sorry, what was the last part?
we get an overlay, an asphalt overlay. It would be maintained, treated, maintained. If you continue for another 15 years and you draw your pen line, you'll see that Robin Drive is still within the yellow of the graphic, or the gold. So yet another maintenance treatment in this is year 26. And if you continue then to the next page and you find Robin Drive again, you would see 15 years later, it was scheduled for a complete overlay, a complete reconstruct. It's in the blue. So basically that's saying is that every street in your network, we expect to have somewhere in the order of magnitude of 60-year cycle. And So Robin Drive would then, after the complete reconstruct, in that year 40, it would move to another 15 years, year 60, whatever it is, 55, year 55, it would be overlaid again. Is that making sense? It's a cycle.
So the overlay, reconstruct.
That's correct. But in actuality, what your commissioner and the previous commissioner had done was done exactly what I said in the variables, was they assessed the roads and they've assessed the next 3 years and looked at Robin as a high priority, even though you might not think of it because
That's
it's
my
not
question.
until 2021. It's a high priority. The highest priorities are in the 2019 year, these top 10, or top 11, excuse me, that he's got.
And Robin didn't make the 2020?
Well,
I'm just
you're doing Robin, you can't get confused with private property. You know, that's
True.
true.
That's true.
We're talking
Yeah,
about
that's-
the road.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. You're right. Right. Yeah. And Bobby was nothing if not thorough. And you guys did this engineering study, right?
Yes, we completed this assessment.
So to do this whole program, like, would be $528?
Well, what,
Wait, where am I looking?
528, 620.
You're saying this is an ongoing.
exactly, and if you combine what I testified to prior and this, what is telling you is that, as the commissioner said, Mr. Casper, I'll get that name right before you guys are done. Said, it's like, he knows the reality of the situation is, we're not gonna come up with $780,000, but we could come up with 520 in year 1, or we could come up with 549 in year 2, or 528 in year 3. So in other words, you're gonna have to do a good job going forward you're playing catch up. You're not falling further behind. I mean, it's up to the $200,000 you're short of this mark. So what you're saying is, Space Co, we think our roads are gonna last not 60 years, they're gonna last 62 years. And therefore, this is the budget we're going to back into. Does that make sense? That like if the life expectancy is altered a little bit, it's going to adjust the numbers. So while our assessment says you're falling slightly behind, you're doing a better job of keeping up with the numbers that have been presented for the next 3 years.
We're doing a better job if what?
If you increase your roadway budget from the current 400,000 to the 550, or, you know, the numbers that are here, 520, 550, or you say, as the commissioner said, 1.6 million over a 3-year program, you're gonna do a better job.
So, and then if you don't do the minimal maintenance that is suggested, then you're ending up spending more money in the long run.
It's similar to your roof on your home, right? If you let the gutters fill with water, you're gonna get rot, you're gonna get shingles that are deteriorating quicker. If you maintain your home, your roof will hopefully live its full life.
You're gonna spend less money maintaining as opposed to waiting until it gets to the point where you really have to reconstruct, and then you really have to spend money. Then you're putting out more.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I was surprised that Glenview had so many just lands.
Well, there was a lot of small cul-de-sacs and streets. The first year is called the circle, and, you know, might as well do as much of that as you can in 1 year, because all these streets are connected.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I got it. Okay. Alright.
Thank you.
Can I just ask you on your analysis, please? So when you take, how many miles is that, the 321 square yard?
That's a good, well, it's because the streets are very width. Do you know the linear footage of streets, Sam, by the off the top of your head?
Oh, which streets?
For the entire network?
Oh, that's a great question.
You could average the width, just calculate it.
The mileage is supposed to be 20.8 miles.
Oh, there you go, 20.8.
And so when you divided it by, I'm just, 15 to calculate the total payment that must be resurfaced or reconstructed on an annual basis, is that just the number of?
That was because we were using that assumption, that 60-year cycle, and we said to divide 60 evenly, we said 15 years for a maintenance program. So,
Is that what most people use? I mean, is 15 years the, how are you running?
No, I think it's a reasonable year. Yes, I think it's a reason. I would say it's experience and rule of thumb. The streets that have really high traffic patterns, or the heaviest vehicles on your streets are the garbage trucks. They do the most damage. So depending on how that street's been maintained, if it's got adequate drainage, if it was built properly in year one, the life expectancy will vary.
Yeah, which is why D is. So year one, the total's 520.37. You're actually only asking about 4, right?
Yeah, but the
But-
road improvement fund, a third of that would contribute towards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, you have enough in
So
your
it's-
budget to
Right,
cover
but I have enough
the
in
rest.
reserves to
Right,
cover
in
it.
reserves, okay. Okay.
All right?
Yeah, I mean, I
Any other questions?
understand.
I guess I was asked is just pick, so Wally, help me understand it. Were you involved in that, or was this Bob that picked the streets that you said, like, you know, for
Well,
2019?
primarily Bob.
Well,
You know, he showed it to me and explained it, but, you know, nobody knew the condition of the roads more than he did. You know, he was there for 35 years and took more than an active interest in
Okay.
knowing these things.
So the assessment wasn't done by you in terms of looking at the roads, right? I just
That's
wanted- I just
correct,
wanted to
yeah.
say, So it was all done by
Right.
you, okay.
And typically an assessment would include, you know, and this, while we may have had a lot of this information up here, like, it would include coring, which is basically taking cores of the streets to check the depth of the stone and the asphalt, doing that assessment. None of that's been done yet. So I think for the next 3 years, it sounds like you guys have a good program in place, priority-wise, but when we get to approaching year 4, it will be time to do a more complete assessment of all the street network.
So based on what you just said, I actually do have a question.
Okay.
Because I think Hartridge is going through that coring issue on the library parking lot. So, is that at a different cost, or is
That would be considered a soft cost. Remember, we're using 20, I think we're using 2018, no, we're using 2019 dollars. And the dollars we use to get to this bottom line number, we used a 1.5% inflation escalator to get to the out 60 years. So, I'm not familiar with the Park Bridge situation, but typically.
Well, just because there was clay underneath, you know, like, I think what you're saying.
Right, the cores would tell you what the makeup of the cross-section of the existing street was, and what the underlying, they're probably only running about 5 feet deep than normal for a pavement core. And that would help the engineer and the commissioner make a decision on what kind of roadway cross-section would be appropriate for that street going forward.
Have we had coring done in the past? And when was the last time, like, an evaluation of that was done?
Well, definitely that street on Pauline was probably twice as costly as you would normally expect, because it hadn't been, but it was supposedly not done as well as other streets. It was like maybe late 1990s.
The coring, you mean?
Well, can you explain the difference between
Sure.
2-inch mill and 4-inch mill? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, when a core will tell you, if you picture a layer cake, you basically took a hole right down the middle of it. You can see each layer with each frosting, each cake. That's how the pavement is made up as well. But it will give you the surface, the amount of surface course, which is what we drive on, which could be anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches thick typically. It will probably give you what we would consider the binder course, which is a thicker, more less smooth surface, because you don't have to drive on it, so it's as robust from a structural standpoint. And so that will give you that depth as well. And then beneath that is the course of stone of this cross-section, and that stone is basically the base to build the asphalt. I don't think you have too many streets that have a concrete base. Yes, sir.
Now, if there is neglect or delay, is that more likely to have the 4-inch mill versus as opposed to the 2-inch mill? And isn't the 4-inch mill close to double the cost of?
Yes.
And when you
Yes.
say 4-inch mill and 2-inch mill, you're about the width of the core.
No, what
Oh.
he's saying is how thick that layer is that you have to
Got
pull
it.
off to rebuild, because what you're gonna start seeing is if you let, say you don't do crack sealing for a number of years on a roadway, that water starts penetrating those
Oh,
cracks
yeah.
and basically starts
Right.
eroding
Yeah.
the next layer
Correct.
beneath it, and then you're gonna start having freeze thaw and
Yes.
popping and potholes. So you're exactly right, the longer, if that water penetrates that top surface course over time, it's going to deteriorate to a level that a 4-inch mill and overlay will be part of.
Oh, so you're doing what we're doing finally in the park. That's what these street plans are. You know, we just did the seal, you know, as a quick fix. And now we're excavating it, we're doing the whole kit and caboodle, going out to bid.
You know, if the streets like
Because
traffic.
it froze, it cracked,
Right.
you know, people fall on it, we have seniors. Okay.
Yep.
Now,
So did you arrive at the numbers, the cost numbers, based on a guesstimate?
No, these are pretty good numbers for these early years. I think once you get out after year 3, it gets a little foggy because of that inflation factor I mentioned. But these are your actual dollars that you've been paying over the last several years, I believe, for the roadway work. So the square yard cost we can implement in here, it should be pretty accurate. The unit
So
price.
you're not basing this cost necessarily based on what your physical, like you haven't viewed it, the needs of the street are as much as just.
That's correct. We've never conducted an assessment of your entire street network. We just came
But
up.
even for like, I'm just thinking about budgeting for next year.
well, but do you want to spend the money on that kind of study when it's been done by the highway
Well, no,
department?
that's what I'm trying to, that's
So-
what I'm asking.
He's saying he doesn't.
So to do those tours throughout your whole network, you'd probably be budgeting somewhere in the order of magnitude of $60,000 or $70,000. So there's really no, I'm not recommending you do that now. I think you've got a really good jumping off point here. And maybe at the end of year 2, you say, hey, let's start that assessment of our street network. They've had 2 more winters. Let's get those guys back out there and look at this. Let's take some cores. Let's ride these streets, because that's what, what was done before, just in a different format.
So only that, this is the number that, I have to go back and look at the.
He's not asking for that.
You're asking for less than that, so it's 400.
Yeah, because what's in the budget is $405,000 for the road reconstruction. And same as last year, I'm asking for a road improvement fund of $400,000, which would allow us to do what the sheet indicates for 3 years. So it's around 530,000 as opposed to,
Let me ask you something,
The higher
as
number.
an alternative, I'm just asking, since this board won't be here in 3 years.
nor will I.
Right. So, you want that permanent road fund funded, correct?
Well, it'll be funded, but I want the capital improvement fund.
That's what I'm
that allows
talking
us to do more.
But,
That allows us to do more.
right, I get it.
Yeah, so that's the,
Right. So
That's the
ideally, but what he's saying is even the first year cost 520. You're using reserves and,
well, yeah, that's one of the benefits. I mean,
right. So when you say
It
3
reduces
years,
the
it's
reserves.
actually a great deal. Wow. I was gonna say, like, could you alternatively do 2, but it really doesn't matter because the first year itself is, in terms of area length and, right, it's the most expensive. I mean, the first year, wait, am I looking at the numbers right? Oh, the first year total is 523. Oh, 549, okay. And then 528. Alright. So, question being, what you're asking in your budget is a straightforward that
Yeah.
will allow you to
What we,
start the 3-year plan.
just gotta remember the 400,000 plus another 400,000 for the road maintenance fund allows us to do this work as shown on that page.
Plus
Yeah,
400,
you lost
so that's
me.
800?
No,
Are you
it's
talking about
spread
your
out over
regular
3
budget?
years. It's a road improvement plan spread out over 3 years, which makes it around 530, 535. So,
No, I think our question was the 800.
Because you said 400,000 plus 400,000.
well, yeah, but it's not all spent in the first year, it's spread out over 3 years, so what you actually get in 1 year are these figures over here, 520.
It's
Oh, like the capital, I got it,
Yeah,
I
I'm not
got
asking
it. It's
for
like the
an
capital
800.
fund.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the amount that you put, like, that's in there.
And you can do an extra 4 or 5 streets a year if you allow for that extra 135,000 a year.
Okay,
There you go.
all right. Yeah, I couldn't figure out.
Can I ask one?
Sure, trustee McKenzie.
So, if you did have the additional $400,000 and it would be spread over 3 years, would you have the manpower to do more?
Okay, this is all bidded out. You know, the guys that I work with, they do small paving jobs, they have the paper, but they don't have the industrial strength paper that allows, that you see on the street, you know, for an IDOT road or a Park Ridge road, they don't have that type of equipment. So this is a bidded out process. In other words, put in the paper, you can always add on streets, but you know, you have a problem if you delete streets. So they'll always add on streets at that price, but they'll always charge more if you don't do a certain amount of work.
So in other words, you bid out, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in.
Because it's
on
over,
yours, but-
it's over $20,000.
Of course, so you bid out, like, for example, D, Kathy Court, Ashley Drive, Hazelwood Lane, Thornbury Drive, Cherry Court, Cherry Circle, is that what you're bidding out?
No, well, right now, I'm doing a smaller amount because I can't go over that. But the bidding process hasn't been completed yet. So, you know, right now, we're doing you know, what we think we can do.
Without the.
Without the, yeah, and then, should this come about where I have a road improvement fund, you can always add on streets at the price.
Ah, I
And you know, you're going for the lowest bid.
We had some track streets.
Is that why you subtotal, okay, on the sheet that's, thanks to trustee Carabona's red notebook, under O,
No, I haven't, I just got it, sorry.
well, you can look it up if you have it under O. It's got what Wally had submitted, and you've got a subtotal of, for 4 streets, if you subtotal it to 373,047. So was that subtotal, like, that's gonna be done first?
Yeah. Well, that would be, the top streets you would see there would be done first,
It would
right?
be done first. If the budget is 400,000, that would allow for those 4 streets.
Right.
I assume that's why you sort of did that. And then you've got the extra 6 streets for 166,000.
Yeah,
You added,
that's correct.
if your budget were to
Now,
increase.
this is a little different because that one was assuming the 4-inch mill. And what we're gonna do on,
I'm sorry, which one? Oh, this sheet?
yeah, no,
The board
the
packet?
one that shows 1 year. So I've talked to Ted Ward, and he did a close inspection of the street, and he says that vast majority of the square yardage that we're gonna do on the road doesn't have to be 4-inch mill. So
Okay.
that's gonna reduce the cost of resurfacing those 2 portions of the road.
Okay.
But,
And can you get an updated sheet to this so that you can see what the 2-inch mill would be?
well, essentially, this is based on 2 inches, the one that shows 3 years. And there may be small sections that would be 4, but it should have not a very material effect on.
Well, it doesn't have the identical streets. For example, Poplar Lane was on the resurfacing project, and I don't see Poplar Lane on.
These are, from my understanding, if he gets the capital fund.
Well, either way, you'd like 10 streets to be resurfaced, or 11.
Poplar is the first one on the second year.
Right.
I think typically what was happening here, just like we were in our analysis, see, all these bars are not exactly the same size. We tried to work within the budget, so I think when you're moving Poplar from the top list to the second, you're just trying to get the maximum amount of square yardage you can do in that given year. So Poplar's square yardage might have dictated that that's be slid down a year. I think that's what was probably happened here.
Right.
So, what you originally had was 10 items. You went to 11, what you're presenting, or what Wally's presenting in 3 now. And Poplar.
Well, it's
was
actually,
included in
no, the
number
first two are
11.
the contract.
That'll be the first one done in the second year.
So, yeah, like, the first 2 items on the 3-year are concrete and materials, right? So the streets actually start at number 3.
Right.
Right, yes, that.
So it's
That's for
really-
sidewalks and things of that.
Right, so it's not, I don't think it's
Denied.
So just for clarification, you're saying that this 3-year plan, the first year of the 3-year plan is based on 2-inch mill. And it's basically, it's at 520,000 versus what was based on a 4-inch mill at 539. So it's about a $19,000 difference
Right.
Yes, he lowered the cost.
to have it be the 2-inch. Is that?
Yeah. And over,
And you're taking one street out.
No,
No.
it's still
It's
10,
in.
because because
You
the
can
first
add
of the streets
streets.
started at number 1, it started as 3.
No, I know, but if you
No,
go
it's
back to
nine-
what
it's
you
9
presented,
streets the first year.
It's 9 streets, I mean, he had originally asked for 10, it's 9.
right.
Right,
The first year, right, his Poplar was moved to year 10.
Yeah.
right.
Right, do I get
That was
that right?
much better said.
Yes. And he's not asking for the 525 that it actually costs because he's covered with reserves in his budget. He's asking for the 400 in the capital fund, which really isn't any of his poor guys.
Well, what I'm saying is, on the sheet that you presented in the board packet, we all looked at, if you take out Poplar, because that's not being done, you had 539, to take another 24,000 from Poplar out of that, you're gonna be spending 515, which is less than what this is, and this is 520, and this was based on 2-inch mill. So it hasn't been reduced, it's actually more.
But it has the first 2 lines.
Correct.
Yeah. That,
So that's
Right.
it's still number 10, that's why,
Right.
and
Poplar
here
is
it's
still
number
number
10,
10.
and it's still number 10.
Right.
So why can't it still be in 2019 instead of 2020?
I think is the question.
Yeah, because,
If they gave you 400,000, can you do Poplar in 2019?
I mean, it's
I
still.
could take something else out, or, you know, what
No,
is it?
but Wally, on your
On
table.
your
this
original
one,
sheet.
It's still number 10.
It's number 10.
In this year.
Right.
And then this one start one at G Road, instead of using the concrete materials of it,
Right.
it's still number 10.
Right.
So.
So it would
this is
still
the question.
theoretically be
Right, so it
2019.
still would be 19,
Yeah.
2019. This is
Dawn, do you know the answer to this?
Well, I was not, just a
I'm sorry, this is
clarification
Dawn
from our-
Neiman. For those of you that don't know, she's the Dana
engineer.
Wally
Yes.
Administrator.
administrator.
I just wanted to get clarification from our Space Co, our president of Space Co, who's giving this presentation to us. I think what we were trying to do with this report is just show you all the streets and roads were responsible. And basically, they were telling us that they have a 60-year life, expectancy, let's put it. And based on the summary in the beginning, it says, kind of the standard is, you're gonna have to do something to every street 12 to 15 years, every 12 to 15 years. So basically, Space Co, they were, we're hoping, we're thinking positive, we can keep them going for 15 years rather than the 12. But the streets that are here are, that's why when you're saying that these are in order of priority, or these were streets, it's, this can change overnight, unfortunately. With these streets, we can have a water main break, and what was maybe, in decent shape could now really need repair the next year. So different things play into what roads we do. So what we do is when we put our bids together, we assess the roads, we come down to the ones that we think really need the work the most. And, how we can spend our money wisely, because we always want to, Wally is probably king of counting the pennies at highway, because he makes sure we only do what we have to do, and we do it as inexpensively as we can. And with doing these projects, the larger amount of streets you do, the better price you get. So there's lots of different things that go into this. So unfortunately, I wish it was like real easy, so you could say, look at this page and look at this page, but it's assessed all the time what the situation of the street is. Did I get that right? Is that basically what this report is trying to show?
Yes, Dawn, I think you summarized it properly, yes.
Basically, this is everything we're responsible for, just so you know. It's not just 5 streets. And what happens is, to be perfectly honest, and I hope you don't mind me bragging a little bit, but our streets, we maintain them so well. All the people incorporated Maine Township drive down our unincorporated streets because we plow them so good. So they're probably getting twice the wear and tear because everybody wants to go down our streets because they're so great. So, that's why there's lots of different factors that factor into it. And it's not exactly, a formula that's easy to put together. Different aspects of what's going on can play into this. So I hope maybe that clarifies kind of the difference between what we have listed on this page and what's in here. This was just supposed to be an overall informative, just so our.
But these are the streets that Bobby, had assessed and you guys.
Yeah, this was Bobby's brain. He knew everything.
Right, as
But
the
now
most
we want it all in paper.
important
We
to
want to
be
show
done.
everybody, this is everything we're responsible, based on every street having a 60-year life expectancy. This is kind of a plan of how we're going to try to maintain
Yeah,
it.
because last year I asked him to do this 3-year plan.
Right.
This is what he came up with.
And Walter, if I can, I think adding to what Dawn was also saying is that the initial handout in the packet for the trustees, the numbers you gave us is to clarify for the projects did not, when you said that 373,047.78 for the first 4 rows that you mentioned there, are you saying that did not include concrete and work on the sidewalks, it was strictly the roads?
Yeah, correct.
Correct, and then the one that we've got now, though, you have a set aside of 115,000
Right.
to add for the sidewalks.
And you notice that the the amounts for the portions on D Road are considerably less.
Right.
Correct.
Because vast majority of those roadways won't have a 4-inch, they'll have a 2. Anything else? Is that it?
I don't know.
Just clarification, and this is part of the permanent, sorry,
No, I'm sorry.
I was trying to get clarification. The 400,000 in the permanent fund.
Okay, could you repeat that, please?
This is the 400,000 you already budgeted in the permanent road fund?
For resurfacing, right?
Wally, can I take a try at that? Because I think I just figured out what you guys were saying. So this is 520. So you got $400,000 in the budget. So what Wally's saying is he's taking 120 out of this 400 that he's asking for, which leaves him a balance of 280. The next year, he's got another 405, he's got another 145 he's got to take from that 280, and in year 3, he's got another 120 he's got to take. So that totals a shortfall of about $380,000 in this 3-year program. That's why the ask is for 400. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It does.
Okay.
It's sort of what we wanted. We want a list of the streets and when they would get done and the addresses and where they were. It was, I think, exactly the type of program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now going back to Catherine Savara. We'll just step right up.
I know you guys have these already, but there's a little bit of update.
And Kimchi, yes.
Good evening. Hi. So I am back to provide additional information, some additional plans that were requested, and also we did get the rate relief. It wasn't what we had hoped for. I included this in the packet, the email that came saying that we were going to be eligible for 1% additional rate relief, unfortunately, and due to the $1 million in claims that are not total claims, okay, but active high claims right now. So it's unfortunate that we have some things going on. But I did clarify that most of those claims listed before were taken into consideration, that they are current, to making sure that none of those were people that had been removed from the plan. So there was only one from the previous list that really is a termination, which still puts it over $1 million in active current claims, large claims. As far as the next page, after the email that I shared with you, it's the renewal that was issued with the numbers. So first they give me an email, they say, okay, the difference is 1%, so we start to put our information together, then they finally give me the actual rates. So just want to make sure I point that out, because I was trying to gather this information and put it together for you guys, and I didn't have everything until the last minute. So as far as the alternate options page, the next page, we have our...
Before you move to that page, may I just ask you?
Sure.
Because you had said the road district was not part of this, but you've got...
No.
It's all one.
Okay.
That's salary, that's,
Okay, so there's only one clear.
Yeah, it's all one.
So that 94,137 included all the
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, it's Maine Township and Highway.
Town fund.
Right.
So, because when you multiply that out times 12 months, because that's monthly cost, it equals $1,000,001, and that would include.
Well, so another thing too to keep in mind is there's usually some changes from when they create the renewal till, when we put together our spread presentation that I showed you guys, we go off the very latest enrollment invoice. So sometimes there's a variation between when the carrier creates the renewal, because they do that, they start that like 3 months back, and they don't update the enrollment when they give me the renewal rate relief, but that renewal started to be created in February, and we have had some enrollment changes. So when we show it to you, we make sure that we're doing live, accurate enrollment. So you wouldn't really take that number off of that to get it. You would more reference the spreadsheet that we
Okay,
put
that's what I
together.
wondered. So
Yes.
this is not necessarily,
It's not live enrollment, it's not, the renewals are never accurate because they prepare them 3 months prior to us reviewing, but. So, if you will turn to the first spreadsheet, which is actually showing you.
I'm sorry, on the alternate options, so I'm clear.
Oh,
The
sorry.
that's okay, grandfather, which,
That's with our rate reduction.
right.
Ends up being
3%,
8.8.
It's almost exactly 3% higher, right?
Correct, then if we were to switch
And the
over to.
worry about the non-grandfathered is that it would be gone, right?
So the biggest thing about that, yes, is, when you look at these percentages on this page here, when we look at the additional alternates as well, so the higher deductible plans, that 3% difference, okay, you have to think about the fact that once you let the grandfather plan go, you're just subject to whatever they do to you the next year. They could double those deductibles, they could double the out-of-pockets, and they do change their plans. Every carrier does, every year. So they don't keep them the same, they do whatever they want with them. So next year, you could be subject to whatever they feel like doing with the plan for you. So another reason for obviously staying with the grandfathered plan is because you know what you're gonna have. So if the difference was, if we saw a non-grandfathered to grandfathered difference of 10%, yeah, it probably would be thought about a little different, but it's literally 3% for an unknown future. And then even when you look at the higher deductibles, like look at the alternate deductible of 1,000, it's a 3.60 increase, a little bit different, but when you look at the difference, if we go over it we'll go over it in the spreadsheet a little bit more, the presentation, the difference in exposure that you're placing on the employees for that small percentage of difference. This is why when we look at these every year, normally I do this in the back end, like I would look at all this stuff and then I bring what I think might make sense. A lot of times, if we were to look at these deductibles and there was some large reserve fund created, that you could actually go back and create an HRA and say, okay, if this exposure
You mean an
happens,
HSA?
or an HRA is a health reimbursement program, which you can attach to any plan and just say, okay, well, we're going with the $1,000 or the $1,500 or the $2,500 deductible, right, instead this year. However, no fear, employees, we're not putting all that additional exposure on you because we're going to kick in with this little plan that's going to come to the rescue should the claim be experienced, okay? When you create a large fund to do that, that's great, and you can do that, and that's what a lot of times employers do when there's an extreme savings. In this situation, when we're looking at $1,000, like a 3.60% difference for a $1,000 deductible, which is going to create a lot more exposure for the employees in the unknown future of a plan, or you go to $1,500, it's really only 2.36% less than you're paying now. And the $2,500 deductible is
That's
only
incredible.
3.87% less than you're paying now. Now, the only reason I originally showed you the $1,500 HSA is one, it's already in our plans. We already have that in our plans. Obviously they changed it a little bit. They tweaked it, so it's not the exact plan, but they change that one every year. But I showed you that because it's 14.51% difference. So it's going to make a little more sense to you of why I originally showed you that before giving you some more alternates. When we look at the spreadsheet and you see the differences in the exposure. So if you don't mind to go to the first spreadsheet right after the alternates. The first plan is the HMO.
And we just have one person in it, right?
You have one employee and one employee child on that one. So that's the HMO plan. There really were no changes to that. We actually non-grandfathered that a couple of years ago because it was a tweak that made it a little better. So we went to non-grandfather on that one. The second one is the grandfathered plan with the grandfathered rate. So you see at the bottom there, it says 8.88% increase. And that is with the rate 1% rate relief they provided us. And then the next plan is what they actually come out with. Instead of giving you your grandfathered plan, they automatically issue me this plan at renewal, and I have to go back and ask for grandfathered rates. So this plan is what you would get if you said you were not going to grandfather your PPO plan again. So basically, looking at that plan, you're increasing the exposure on the out-of-pocket for an individual at $1,000 and for a family at $3,000 for a savings of, 3% difference rather than staying with the grandfather plan. So,
But I'm sorry, Catherine, are you saying that the MIB PP 202 is the same plan as the,
that's the one they
other
issued.
than grandfather,
Yeah,
except, okay. But it's a little worse. I mean, it's worse in some respects. I mean, it does look different.
well, it's more exposure on the out-of-pocket, so while the $500 deductible is the same, you would pay 10% co-insurance. Like say you had a hospital experience,
Right.
you'd have to pay your deductible and you'd have to pay all your 10% co-insurance up to a total of $1,500, which that $1,500 includes the $500. So you're up $1,000 on an individual exposure for somebody on a hospital experience. And you're up $3,000 for a family. Okay, so that's the difference there. You're up $10 on a primary copay, $10 on a specialist copay. The preventative at 100% is actually a little better benefit for you than you have now, because right now you pay a $10 copay and you don't have some of the things included that healthcare reform includes in their mandated wellness covered at 100%. So other than that, everything else is the same until you get to the RX. And there are extreme changes in the RX, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of increase in the different tiers on that.
That's a,
So while you're paying right now $10 for generics, you could pay 10 or 20. While you guys pay $20 right now for a preferred brand, you could pay 50 or 70, 100, or even 120.
is preferred brand the name brand?
Yeah,
What's the?
they're name brands, but, so preferred is what most.
Preferred brand and non-preferred.
Well, so preferred is what would be recommended by most physicians to treat certain conditions.
Correct.
And then a non-preferred would be something that is a little maybe out of the ordinary, but recommended to treat a certain condition. And then of course,
I think we're asking, or at least I am, what's the difference between non-preferred brand and generic?
so non-preferred brand, so generic is the lowest cost out there. So they're supposed to be like,
Because
they're
it's
not
got
a
that
brand name.
difference of 20%, like they don't have to put the full med in.
I don't know really the
I know, pharmacies say it doesn't.
yeah, but, so generic is gonna be the very cheapest. A name brand for something, okay, is gonna be like Zyrtec, right? Or something like that, but there's obviously a generic out there, I don't know what it would be, but there's a generic and it's supposed to be exactly the same, right? So if you buy that, and you're not paying for the name, you're gonna pay a lot less on your generic, right? And then on the highest tier, the non-preferred and specialty brands, you could pay up to $150 to $250 on here. So I would say that besides the out-of-pocket and deductible is, the biggest extreme difference in exposure on these plans. The other thing that Blue Cross started doing too is if something's available in a generic and you don't get it in a generic, they they make you pay the difference too.
Well, that
Plus
I
the
do,
copay.
yeah, right.
Which you, yeah, you
Right.
probably, yeah, so you know about
That I
that.
don't think is unfair, but this is that you have to pay.
Yeah,
If your
so-
doctor prescribes, let's say, you know, an employee's doctor prescribes a preferred brand on this non-grant fund, they could pay as much as 120, okay?
Yeah, depending on what it is. Well, more than that,
Because they like
because
to
if it's
switch
a,
you to,
they can make more than that,
I've
because
had
if it's.
7 employees complain to me about, you know.
Oh, so July 1st,
Where
there's
they
gonna
took
be.
away drugs.
Yep.
and-
They do that twice a year, so they do that January 1st and they do that July 1st. And all they do is they move around drugs and they put them in different tiers, and you might have been getting something at, you know, the second tier, and now it went into the third tier. And all carriers do that, not just Blue Cross, they all do it about twice a year. So again, you might pay more than 120 because you're gonna pay the difference. If it's available in a generic, you're gonna pay the difference between the level you want and the generic price plus the copay. They've started that a couple years ago. And-
Even if the doctor must.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't matter. That's the way the carriers are charging.
I had one employee saying they wouldn't let her do Avastin, I think it was. You know, one of those very popular anti-cholesterol things.
Yeah,
It became non-formulary, essentially.
yeah.
There's a big article I read today that, you know, Kwame Raoul did a big lawsuit against these pharmacists for jacking up cost of generics. Did you read that? Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. But unfortunately, the way the doctor prescribes it doesn't dictate the price. So, I mean, yeah.
So that is a different exposure.
Yeah, that's a pretty great exposure difference there. So, and then, you know, the HSA, what we showed before, the HSA is the HSA, but that comes with lots of logistical things that you need to think about if you're gonna do that, because people aren't gonna have the money to go get their drugs and I kinda had this reformatted to show like what the employee pays, because I thought that would be a lot easier tonight. So I used to say 80% down here, that's what the carrier pays. You're just seeing on this sheet here what the employee pays. So the employee would pay 20% after deductible. But if you were on an HSA, the employee would have to meet deductible first, and then they would continue. So why this says 100% plan, it's a little confusing. It's a $1,500 deductible 100% plan. However, if you went in the hospital, they have a baby, yes, you would pay you would pay $1,500 and then you would be done, 100%, except you would continue to pay for medications for the rest of the year at 20% until you met an out-of-pocket of $3,000. So these are kind of tricky the way they write them, but
Is that, I mean, we'd have to establish a bank account, I mean, that's something that maybe we can move.
well, I mean, we can get really creative on that, but it takes education, it takes time. I think it takes a little bit more planning than, you know, probably the time frame that we have. We do have to let Blue Cross know if we are gonna make plan changes, they have to have those before June 1st. So I would hope that maybe you guys could make your decision in the next meeting, because I have to
Oh, you
make
mean
a
in the
plan.
May meeting?
Well, I have to tell them if we're gonna change plans before June 1st. Plus, we plan our employee meetings, so if there's gonna be a change, we wanna make sure we do educational meetings with the employees, but we definitely have to have a plan change into Blue Cross before,
Oh, yeah,
so
we
don't
do
you have it
both.
like that?
You're right.
Couple
we're both
weeks,
in May.
right?
We have it in May.
Okay.
Can you remind me, Catherine, when, are there limitations, like how long could we stay in the grandfather plan?
So, they have already proposed to take it into
21, I think.
21. Now, because it's proposed, doesn't mean it's absolutely gonna happen, but it'll be decided upon. And then what'll happen is it then goes to the carrier level, and the carriers decide what they wanna do. So if it's, you know, announced that we're gonna allow grandfather's plans to continue, then what happens is Blue Cross decides how they wanna treat that, and United Healthcare decides how they wanna treat that. So individually, they can decide to or not to do that.
Oh,
This
really?
could be our last year.
I mean, it could be, we never know. So they said they want to continue it into 2021.
Should be one more year.
Blue Cross said that?
No, CMS,
Right, CMS.
Health and Human Services, yeah, they proposed it. They said that they want to be able to let people continue their plans. So,
Every year you come and say it's gonna be the last year.
well, that's what they say, and then they, so now they've at least put it out to 2021.
Yeah.
But,
Because this, so, yeah.
so I did run some additional deductibles that I thought you might want to see though. Those are on the next
Right,
spread.
that's what Claire is.
So, you have your first two, okay, your HMO and your grandfathered plan in the first two columns. And then the next column is a $1,000 deductible, which increases exposure by $500. And then the out-of-pocket total, which does include the deductible, increases exposure by $1,500 on the individual basis. The co-pays again go up by, $10 on the primary, $10 on the specialist. Same situation on the preventative, covered at 100%, that's a little bit better benefit. And then you pay 10% co-insurance after deductible for hospital services. The ER is the same. And then we have the RX tiers, which are pretty similar to what we looked at on the previous page.
What do you mean? They're pretty similar to the
So-
non-grandfather.
So there are $0 or $10 for a generic. That's a little bit better than the non-grandfather, I believe. I think we were at 10 or 20, or no, we were at, we were at 10 or 20 on the non-grandfathered.
That's a 50, 70, 100, 120.
Yeah.
50, 250.
For specialists, for specialty drugs, yeah. And two, some of these things could require pre-authorization. So specialty drugs and some certain drugs could always require pre-authorization too.
So this changes the maximum out-of-pocket for an individual to 6,000 out of network, 2,000 in network, right?
Correct. Yes, instead of 500 in network, 1,500 out. So we're up by 1,500 on that. And we're up by 4,000.
And office visits are up by $10.
$10, yeah, 4,000 on the family out-of-pocket.
Specialists are up by $10, $20, $10.
So it's 10 and 10, emergency's the same. The,
Hospital, I think is this.
it's 10%, yeah, same, it's 90%.
I'm sorry, 300 copay, then 30% after deductible.
That's out of network, yeah. So that's the same. That's not different. Really, the deductible and the total out of pocket is different. The amount that you pay for your doctor visits is $10 higher. And then the generics, right now you're at $10 copay. It could be 0 or 10 on this $1,000 deductible plan. Right now you're at 20 on preferred, it could be 10 or 20. And then the non-preferred, we got 50, 70, 100, 120, or specialty drugs, 150 or 250. And mail order's always 2 months supply, or 3 months supply for 2 months copay.
So were you surprised it didn't save us hardly anything?
No, that's why I don't show you 20 options every year.
So when you came to us the first time, you'd already.
I always do this on the back end, so because it gets overwhelming. These renewals that we receive, they have hundreds of plans in them, hundreds of plans. There's like 20 HMOs and 20 HSAs, and there's all different kind of networks for PPOs. So I always do this on the back end, but certainly did find that you wanted to see it so I could show you that there really isn't a huge difference in percentage of savings like you would have probably thought. You probably would have thought, oh, we go to a $2,500 deductible, there's going to be huge savings. But when in fact, unfortunately, it doesn't turn out that way.
Well, am I reading this incorrectly? If you go to the $2,500 deductible, which is the second to the last column off the right on the second page, isn't that a savings of 8.88 plus 3.87? Because it's a negative.
It's 3.87% change from your current. So it is almost 4% savings over what you're paying right now.
I know, but the grandfather plan is an increase of 8.88%. So that's a
Right.
swing of 9 plus 3, or 12%. So you're saying that's not a significant?
So what I'm showing you
I think
right
she's saying
here,
for the
the
exposure.
grandfather plan is taken into consideration because that's the current. So this number down here, this 40,000 in this bracket, 40,742, those are the dollars that you are saving by going to this $2,500 plan versus being in your HMO and your grandfather PPO that you're in right now with the current enrollment. So you're increasing the exposure to the employees on deductible by $2,000, okay? And you're increasing by $3,000 on the out-of-pocket to almost achieve a 4% savings over what you are currently at.
But we're not staying current, right? I mean, it's gonna go up by 8.8%, 8.88%.
Right.
So we don't have the option of staying current. That's not, we can't stay 0.
Right, I understand, but I always
So
show
the
you
difference
from
is a
current where you are.
12%,
Yeah,
13% difference, 12%.
because you're comparing it to current.
Yeah, so if you want, I can do another one and show you difference from renewal.
No, I just want to make sure I understand when you say it's only saving
Well, if
40,000,
I
that's not
think what
true.
she's saying is
Well, not 8%.
that if you look at the premium, for example, so look at employee, right? And so, 1,183, okay? For all that exposure, whereas, where is it?
1345.
Our where is it? 1,345, it's a matter of $150. So for giving the employees, I mean, terrible, I mean, not terrible, I shouldn't say that. An increase in the exposure, I think
Right.
that's what you were trying to, was that?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to show, the additional exposure versus like where the difference is from current. But it's not a problem for me to add difference from renewal. That literally take me seconds. So I can send you a spreadsheet that shows you from renewal. But when we present to groups, we always show them where they're going from current, because I understand what you're saying, that's gone. You don't have the option of staying with that, that's changing.
Yeah.
Well,
So we're
that's what
comparing
we
everything
already,
against
put-
what
I mean, what we accounted for in the budget was in.
So the percentage, okay, I get what Trustee McKenzie's saying about 12%, but actual cost
That's what I'm.
would be, in addition, for the year, would be the difference between $111 from current to the grandfather.
Goes from $1 million.
So it would be 100 and, for an individual employee, it's $109. Right? Is that the?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
what the 12%, that
the
would be.
grandfather monthly
That would
premium.
be the actualization of what the 12% difference is, right? The increase?
So most
For an
people
individual.
want to see it benchmarked from where they are, so they know how much more they're going to spend for these other options.
Uh-huh.
That's why we show it this way.
Yeah.
But
Right,
I
but-
understand what you're saying,
Right.
you're at renewal now, so.
No,
what
but
do you do?
what I'm asking you is, the 12% that Trustee McKenzie is referring to as the increase in the amount of premiums, that's translating to $109 for an employee, right? Is that,
Yeah.
what is it then?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, but I'm asking that. So the 12, so it's the increase in the renewal with the -3% and 8.8 is roughly around 12% increase, right? But you're saying that the price of what we have currently and what the grandfather, isn't that the difference of $109 for an employee?
It's not really across the board like that, that's why we just show you. So from current, if you were to grandfather your plan, it would be an 8.88% increase. I think what Trustee McKenzie is saying is that if you went to the $2,500 plan, it would actually be a decrease, right, of 3.87.
But the numbers
instead
you
of getting
listed
an
are
increase-
with the increase.
I'm sorry?
The numbers you listed for the grandfather are with the increase.
Yes, everything is
So
benchmarked
what
from
Kim
where
is
you
saying-
are now to
Okay.
where you might go,
So-
and it shows you the savings in
Yeah,
there.
what, it's what I said. So if you take it like, if you're an employee only,
Right.
and you're on the grandfather, if we chose grandfather, with the increase, right? That would be $1,345.73. If you chose the $2,500 deductible, it would be $1,183.68.
For an employee-only rate.
Yes,
And it's
yeah, I'm
different
talking
for
right
each
now,
tier.
just employee only. And that is literally like $115.
So is it, I think that's where you
That's
try to
the
put it
question.
in
Is it worth
perspective
doing that to your employees?
to give them
For, and the
$2,000
total
more.
cost for the combined annual premium is $11,000, monthly is $11,000 different. $84 versus $95. With like really much worse exposure. I mean, that's just my
Right.
reading of this.
Well, when we review these all the time, that's what we try to think of for you. Like, would you really want to do that? If you didn't have a reserve bucket enough to go back to every person and say, no worries, we're going to save a lot of money by doing this, so we're going to reimburse you as your claim is experienced and come to the rescue. We're not really putting all that additional exposure on you. You know what I'm saying? So.
I don't know, we're talking apples and oranges here. I'm looking at total cost. I'm not looking at one employee choosing one plan.
Well, but you have the numbers over here, Claire, on the left. So the majority do choose employee.
Oh, I see that.
Oh, okay.
But, I
I
mean,
just wanted
it's
to.
$162 a month difference, times the number of employees for that line item, which is 16.
Right.
I'm just saying, it's not just 100 and something dollars. It's, you have to multiply it out,
Yeah,
and then
it's
multiply it out by
11,000 a
12
month.
months. So I'm not trying to be a cheapskate here, I'm trying to be reasonable. And we, I think, established that we have the Rolls-Royce plan. If that's what you all want, hey, great.
Well, I will tell you.
But my next question is there a prohibition to having the employee contribute more than they do currently?
So if you
On the
stay
grandfather.
grandfathered, you
Yes.
cannot do that. If you move out of the grandfather plan, you can do that. You're free to do whatever you want on that level. Yes.
It was intriguing, and I really appreciate all the work that you put in, all the information you gave us.
Yes, thank you.
I'm familiar in this arena, but what I'm hearing though, I think, which is a concern too, of a representative customer in this area, predictability of future premium, predictability of coverage into the future is a huge problem here because of claims and potential claims in the future, which is something we have to consider as insurance agents.
Correct.
We have to consider that, and it's, bar the door when it comes to premium. If we let the grandfather plan go,
Right.
we could end up next year paying the same amount of premium for much less coverage.
Correct, that's the point, yes, because you
Or a
see
higher
the differences
premium,
aren't
but
great
much
here.
less coverage.
So the differences are not that great down here that you're looking at now. So exactly that could happen. Yeah, you're letting go of the security of knowing what you're gonna have, where you see that,
Where you can budget for it, and you
Right,
know
right.
exactly.
But they could very well do that. I mean, you could maybe save 2% next year, but everything just doubled on you. Yeah.
Do you have that list, and I know we have a lot to get to, but do you have that list, is it in here? I missed it, maybe it was in the first one.
Your renewal history?
Yeah, I mean, some years it was 22%.
Yeah. Yeah, so, well, I mean, that's another thing that we talked about a lot in the last meeting because of consideration, honestly, with over $1 million of large shock claims right now, I don't think anybody would give you a quote anyway. anyway, but, and if they did, it certainly wouldn't show the savings we saw, but that's something we talked about a lot in the last meeting, because actually Blue Cross has been very good to you. So they have been very good to you guys over the years when you consider the very high, large claims that we've had. So from 2012, we had a negative 1332, 2013, 9.95, 2014, 1699, 2015, 791, 2016, we had a lot of large claims again. It was 2409, but we got it negotiated down to 2166. 2017, it was 3.46, 2018, 6.34, and 2019, 6.85, obviously 9.96 for our rate really. But, you know, just that alone, other carriers are not that generous. So you come into a bad year, you know, they give you teaser rates in the beginning, like say we didn't have, to just be honest with you, because I'm doing this over 16 years, if say we didn't have a lot of bad claims going on right now, and you guys wanted to go for it, you said, let's go for it, let's go into underwriting and see what they do. They can give you a teaser rate to get you in, and then next year, typically, we have seen 50% increases. They can just kill you the next year and get their money back. And then, so that's why I'm saying it's important, because Blue Cross is treating you so well, because you've been there for what, 20 years? So they really are treating the group. They don't want to lose the group, and so they're being very generous in their renewal this year.
But it's Blue Cross Blue Shield that that $2,500 deductible.
Right, but it's going
Yeah, they're all
out of the
blue.
grandfathers.
We're looking at all blue right now, all real firm, just the rate is the rate. Yeah, there's.
So Blue Cross, excuse me, is using our numbers, our experience rates, all of our base numbers, and coming up with the rates. So when they apply the same, like, good customer, want to keep the customer rates?
That's what they're doing, that's what I just explained, these are good renewals,
With the
like for
grandfather.
this year.
But with the, right,
When the grandfather, the barn doors open, let's go.
Well, they're probably gonna still treat you well, but with losing the grandfather, they're probably still gonna be good to you on renewals, because they don't wanna lose the group. But with the grandfather, you have no idea what's gonna happen the second year. Like you.
But what you're
that's what she was
referring to-
saying.
But what you're referring to in experiencing, the teaser rate, and then it could go up.
That's if you went to another carrier. I'm
Right,
just
but
trying-
we're not doing that.
I know, but I'm just trying to explain to you, because Laura brought up the history and how good Blue Cross has been to you guys, and it really is true. In regards to what we see other carrier history do.
and I was bringing that up to say that I think Catherine's, you asked her overall recommendation, is that, the one you're looking at, and the non-grandfather, those could all be gone next year, am I correct? The grandfather, you're in it.
Yeah, if you don't let go of the grandfather, you know what you're gonna have. If you
Right.
let go of it, you.
I mean, that's what Dave was saying, and he's right.
Right.
Because it doesn't, this is forget Humana, we're talking Blue Cross. Once you're on a grandfather, which is the reason all these years that we've done that, is because you do know what you're getting, and it's traditionally they've been good to us. Sure, they'll be, perhaps goodness, they might not have a plan.
Yeah, but aren't they gonna have 100 other ones?
Well,
They will, but the
Sure.
point is, like, you see the very little difference for a lot more exposure here. So if you go off grandfather this year, and we know what we're gonna get, because we're looking at it, right? The non-grandfathered replacement plan. However, now you're exposed to whatever they wanna do to you every year, because you're not in a grandfathered plan. So they never keep them exactly the same. So we know what we're looking at now, but next year, that deductible could be double, those co-pays could be double, those RX could get even worse. You're just exposed, that's all, to whatever they want to do with the plan and renewal every year. So that, I think, was the point, right, the question you were asking me. Correct.
and that was the point of it.
But, that's exposure for savings of $130,000 in premium cost.
Are you talking about the $2,500 deductible? So, how do you get $130,000?
Well, you're gonna
I have
an
the savings.
increase of $94,000 by using the grandfather plan, right? And we would have a savings, of course, of $1,000 if we went to the $2,500.
You'd have a savings of like, yeah, almost 41,000 was in the brackets there from what you're currently at.
Yes, but if we're comparing, I mean, just to make it easy, we're comparing the grandfather
Yes.
versus the 2,500.
Yes.
Those seem to be the ones that we're
Yes.
comparing. So that's a swing of $130,000 savings.
No, it's almost 41,000.
But if we go with the grandfather one, we'd be paying $94,000 more.
So if you look at the bottom here, I'm telling you what the annual premiums are from current to these different options. So when I figure out the difference in annual premium, that is if everybody is enrolled like they are now, the people that are on the HMO, the people that are in the grandfathered right now, it is 2,500 instead. It's not 130. This is the difference in premium right here. So instead of paying, so if you go back and look at the grandfathered one, okay, the grandfathered spread, instead of paying 61,772.92 more, okay, if you go to this 2,500, you're saving 40,742. You can't double multiply those. I'm doing the math already for you. I'm showing you. Here's where you are now. This is the difference.
Now
annually.
meaning with the
Are
renewal.
you looking at this, you're looking at the MIB PP 202 replaces grandfather? I was talking about the grandfather.
No, I am too. So this spreadsheet reflects everybody current, what they're doing, which is the grandfather plan. So these numbers, these differences you see down here, whether they're higher or lower because they're in brackets, that is comparing to the grandfathered plan, okay? So the reduced rate of 1% that they gave us in the grandfathered plan, that's, everything is being compared to that you're looking at. So when you see that bottom line there, that is the bottom line. If you're looking at the $2,500 plan, it's $40,742.88 less than if you just grandfathered and did the current HMO. That's it. Instead of an 8.88% increase, it's a 3.87% decrease. So instead of, that's the difference.
So you're comparing it to the combined current.
Yes, it's always compared to the combined current.
Which is the 105,299 total annual premium
So,
for both.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
However, but like if you compare it, like your grandfather rates with the renewal, annual premium, again, is like, okay, it's, I think 100,000, right, for the annual.
The annual's 1,146,441 is your grandfather.
980,894, so it's like $1 million or so, right? Or 100,000, I'm sorry, coming in. But for like a much different plan. But it's,
Actually, it's not even 100,000 because the $2,500 plan is 1,012,152.84.
oh yeah, that's the wrong number, right.
And the grandfathered would be 1,146,441.
So that's where it's there, I can't, right.
It's
that's sort of-
40,000, it's 40,742.
She's comparing it to already the renewal, with the renewal. You see?
Well, what, I just was looking at this same line across. So I looked at under the grandfathered rates, which is the second column, right?
Yes.
It
So-
says premium difference from current, 93,546.
Right. So instead, if you want to compare this 2,500 to the renewal, you would just take that 9,546 and you'd subtract 40,742. That would be the difference.
Right.
No. Instead of going up 93,546, okay, it would be 93,546 minus 40,742, because that's what you would say if you want that $2,500 plan.
But 93 is a positive, 93,000 is
Right.
positive, and the 40,000 is a negative. So that's why I was saying it was a swing. And this line item says premium difference from current as a positive 93,000. To me, that means it's a $93,000 increase. Am I missing something?
No, that's correct. So the
Okay,
premium
but, yeah,
difference
the
from
same
current
line
and
item.
For the year.
Right, so it is an increase of 94,000. But if we did the $2,500 deductible, it would be a decrease of $41,000.
From current.
Right.
From the 93,000.
But from the 93,000,
Right.
so that's 53,000.
No,
no.
current is not the 93,000. That would be what we would be going to.
So you're going to 93,546 if you do nothing, right?
Correct.
If you go to the 2,500, you're not being increased 93,546, you're saving 40,742. That's what I said, if you want me to add a line item to compare to renewal, I can do that. And it's easier to look
But
at
can I
and
just
make a
say,
decision.
like, that really wouldn't be your first choice, but if you were going off a non-grandfather, it would strike me that the other one was way better than this one.
We have 40 plans altogether.
So you have 40 enrolled right now, yep. 16 employee only, 6 employee spouse, 5 employee children, 13 family. Yeah, for a total of 40 right now. It fluctuates a little bit.
Okay, so our annual cost is, assuming we did the grandfather again, it would be $1,146,441,
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
Part of the issue is, as we just discussed and you had said, we're, picking up a substantial cost for an increase of whatever, 94,000. But we pay 95% of the premiums right now, so we pay $1,089,119. The employees are paying $57,332, and that's 40 people, because it could be spouses or children. So for the entire
But
year,
you
we've
know
got
exactly how
spouses
many
or
it
children
is.
employee paying $1,400 for a full year of all this coverage. That's where the cost comes in, is the premiums too. Because the plan is a fantastic Rolls-Royce plan, as Claire has referred to. It's well beyond what other
I don't think that
governmental
was
units are doing, where there's a contribution of, maybe 30 to 60% that the employee pays for.
Yeah, okay,
We
so
can't
I
change
understand.
that.
And you can't change it.
We can't
So you
change
have to
it.
figure out
Right.
another way to address
Alright.
how we can, if we want to protect the plan, which is an awesome plan, so that people don't get, concerned or burned by something that is unforeseen changes that might happen 2 years out. This year doesn't look so bad to go,
Right.
but
Right.
subsequent years could be really risky. So I think we need to
Well, I think they'll go
have a
down
discussion about
because the problem-
what we, if
the
I can just
problem
finish this,
with,
if I can just finish. I think our discussion is more of an internal one, as I see it, than one with Blue Cross, because we appreciate what you've done for us to keep the
And those
premiums
numbers
down.
are a very big.
And if we want, we've got an unbelievable plan, but we're contributing so much more than most employers and governmental bodies do.
No, wait, here's where I come in. So, the salary study lady was finished, but we have to talk to her this week before the executive report is released. And I'll give you a brief summary. 60% of our employees are way underpaid. And this is her conclusions. And you'll get the report. Way underpaid compared to both private and public sector. 40% are at the right benchmark. She reduced her numbers from when she met with you to if you want to make a salary schedule. And so it strikes me that, the employees will perhaps either form a union, go on strike, or leave, in my opinion, if you don't do anything salary-wise, and at the same time cut their insurance. Like, I'm not really getting it. So that has to play all.
That was not my reference. My reference was, hey, if we want to protect the grandfather plan, and we absorb the 8.8% increase, as we've done year after year after year, unlike a lot of private sector people that if the healthcare plans go up, my friend works for North Shore, for example, then she has to pay out of her salary for any increase in healthcare costs. That happens. But in our governmental unit, we've been paying it year after year after year, whatever the increase is. We can't address the premium, if I can just finish, we can't affect the premium contribution right now But we're picking up $1,089,000 of that, $1,146,000. The employees are picking up $57,000. That's a huge benefit. So we need to translate that
That is correct.
to something somewhere else.
Right.
Is what I'm
And the
suggesting.
total compensation.
So, I mean, if it's,
Yes. That's what, and we're saying the same thing.
okay, well, I thought you were saying you wanted to take away.
If I
I'm
could,
saying to protect the
No, I
grandfather
didn't,
plan.
no, I'm saying
But-
if you do, maybe it was more appropriate addressed to the 2,500 thing. If you do take it away, at the same time, then don't really think you guys are gonna be going for, well, I don't wanna anticipate anything. But, so, yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think this, and I think her opinion is what I followed, is that this year, in my opinion, because Catherine advised that, at least of what I heard on the phone, was to stay in the grandfather since they offered it. And obviously, I think the employees understand that's a big benefit. I mean, it is a huge benefit.
We need to look at the
But at the same time, that doesn't mean that, that's an internal discussion. I agree. In terms of, cost of living, all that stuff, because total compensation is, and you'll get that. But right now, we're just, Claire wanted, these different plans. So I think Catherine, did she do that?
Yes, thank you, I really appreciate
But
it.
I was just pointing out that if you were going to change plans from grandfather, to me, the second one was way better than,
You mean the one that they automatically issue you?
yeah.
So you can make a contribution to?
Yeah, you can make right, if you, if anybody thought of doing that, yes, because, it wasn't,
I think what I'm hearing, and just to make it real clear, predictability of premium, predictability of coverage. We obviously have employees that with Godspeed, we hope they're better and they're fine, but there's a need here. There's a serious medical need here. So that influences those predictabilities and a need for our employees. That's very clear, that you made very clear for us. The grandfather plan is something that's quite appealing. The problem is the grandfather plan is going to increase in the numbers that Claire's talking about in actual dollars, which you spelled out for us. And to keep the grandfather plan, okay, the employees maybe can contribute a little bit more, but if we keep the grandfather plan, we're barred from being able to have the employees contribute more. So we have to work together to find a solution here, because it is a humongous amount of money that the taxpayers are paying for this coverage. So, because the need's there, and that's why I think I'm somewhat compelled, to look at that. But it's kind of like a save the plan kind of thing, is how I see it. I don't know, is that pretty much what?
Right, and like you mentioned, you're going to be impacting people because we already know we have a lot of issues on the group. So it's not like we're going to make this plan change, hey, maybe it won't affect many people. It's going to, because there's, great issues going on right now with people's health conditions. So it's definitely going to impact them, whatever.
well, and we have it, according to the letter sent by Tommy DiBenedetto, one of the reasons that we didn't get a bigger rate,
Right, relief like we usually
have in, our population of employees is aging.
Well,
And-
that combined with the fact of $1 million
And
in
we've
shop
got
claims.
those
Yeah, that's just a shock, because that's a build in the age.
Yeah.
build
Yeah,
in-
I'm agreeing with that.
automatically. So that's not going to affect, but it's a shock claims. I
Right.
heard that.
Correct, it's not all total inclusive claim, that's what claims are. It's large claims over all the other claims.
That's why I said, when you're in the, in the insurance field, when you hear that word shock claim, you kind of jump in your chair for just a second.
Right. I
That helps the
think
heart move along.
Yeah.
I think trustee McKenzie has another question.
Do you have a recommendation, because I don't know if I saw an actual, like, written recommendation in this packet?
So as far as, like Laura said, I just keep saying, so that you guys understand, once we leave this, it's gonna be a surprise of what we're subject to. But at the same time, I understand that your concern is that you can't change contributions. I would say that the changes that we're looking at from the non-grandfather this year don't look so bad. It's just what's beyond that. So, it's kind of hard for me to say because I know what you guys are trying to achieve, but at the same time, I just want you to know everything because I don't want there to be any surprises like next year, like somebody's
So
like, oh my God,
I
how
think
did
what
this
Claire's
happen?
asking is what I'm asking. Would you recommend for this year staying in grandfather, patient education, or, and moving towards a non-grandfather?
I mean, like you also mentioned salary and total compensation package. I think if you get
And
some of that done along within the meantime, so it's not such a slam to everybody, okay, now we're going to this, higher deductible plan and, if you can make some maybe salary changes so total compensation isn't so bad, I would recommend it for future. And yeah, if you could stay now if you're gonna maybe make some changes in salary instead, but I mean, that's not my area, so I would think you guys have to talk about all that. I would say if you can stay the grandfather, to not have the unknown, but that depends on where you wanna make your changes. You wanna make them in the salary, you wanna make them in the benefits, but I would certainly think that that would be very painful if you did both for exposure. I mean, it will definitely make a difference, and I know the employees here, just because I've been here so long, have been staying, they're stable and they don't go anywhere, and that definitely causes people to leave.
Yeah.
Because,
Done.
I know some employers will tell me, oh, absolutely, I know some healthcare, some employers will tell me, like, big accounts, like 200 employees, and they'll say, oh, we're not moving from Blue Cross because we know we'll lose all our employees, so I mean, it's a pretty common thing.
Right.
And I'm going to throw out a prediction. My prediction is that the salary studies will say that this medical plan is a Rolls Royce plan, that no one has it. It's something that we should get away from when you look at the dollars and cents, when you look at the employees and the need. That's what the concern is here.
Right.
So there has to be a bit of a give and take.
Totally agree with you. We need to compromise on salary study lady. All right, so, John, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, as an employee, and again, I'm sorry to make such a big blabber about this meeting, but I have to tell you, everybody is very upset over this. The fact that,
You mean the
when you
potential?
say we have a Rolls Royce healthcare plan, just because previous supervisors, boards, negotiated, worked out a wonderful plan for all of us, why does this have to be taken away?
Let me answer that, Dawn. What we're talking about in the insurance industry, I'm a licensed agent and broker. I've been for 30 years, and Catherine's coming across, everything that she's coming up with is like ringing all kinds of bells. It has nothing to do with past negotiations. The world has changed when it comes to medical insurance. Now what happened over the last several years was something called catastrophic insurance coverage, which is what we used to sell years ago to people that can't get medical insurance. So they pay a very high premium in case their arm fell off or they have cancer of the lung or something, but they're not covered for day to day. Catastrophic insurance, in my opinion, was repackaged and sold as regular insurance coverage over the last 8 or 9 years with very high premiums, very high deductibles, sucker you and me. That's my opinion. Now, that's what the environment that we're in. Employers have struggled with that cost, so they've let these plans go. It has nothing to do with what was negotiated in the past. It's that we're trying to hold on to what every employer has let go all around us.
In other words, Dave's on your side.
And this is what Claire, I think Trustee McKenzie, not to put words in her mouth, but she experiences that, and because there's legal world, there's also the business aspect of what she does in her background. Susan's background, Trustee Jones as well. So we're trying to find a way not to do to the employees what everyone else has done. And the reason why it was done was because of cost. And because of changes that the government has required when it comes to medical insurance.
No, it was really, I mean, and I don't blame Claire for asking, it was just because, you know.
But I want to, let me finish,
Sorry.
if I can finish. So, I think what's going on here is that there is definitely, thanks to a very good report and a real good analysis here, which I'm understanding a lot more, we're trying to find the give and take to make it work, the common ground to make it work.
But may I ask you to please consider the whole picture?
Oh, yes, and I think that's what you're.
Because there are, most of the employees here, trustee Carabody, have been here 10+ years. They've devoted a big chunk of their life to this township and making it what it is. We have all kinds of awards on the wall, and I don't mean to be bragging, but like I said, we're good at what we do. And I think, I mean, just like in your personal businesses, is this what you're doing? Are you giving your employees worse coverage?
Let me continue with that without being interrupted. No, employers aren't doing that. What employers are doing is trying to survive. Because if they don't, they go out of business. If they go out of business, they don't have their employees. And many of your employers have put 30+ years into building their practices or businesses. They don't want to lose it either. They also very much appreciate the loyalty and the good work the employees have done. And you have to face all that with the taxpayer's checkbook. Okay, so that's why most employers to survive have had to let this go. A lot of them dump their employees into government health care, taking them off plans. I lost my private plan that I had through my firm because it did not qualify as a health care plan that the government would suddenly approve. My coverage is cut by 2/3. My premiums went up. I was paying $2,500 a month for medical insurance for myself and my family and my children. So these are things we have to consider, and I think it's the appreciation of the employees and the recognition of the need, that there's a need out there for apparently medical need, that we're struggling with this issue, because if we didn't struggle with the issue, if we did what everybody else would do, this would have taken about 5 minutes. And we'd say no to the grandfather plan in July, right?
The employees thoroughly
Right,
appreciate.
right. And we appreciate,
know
I
that
appreciate.
You're trying to do your best
Right.
for, but
I think we can find it.
I think the
I think we'll be, trust
you know, are
me.
we getting paid? Is everybody here? Are we overpaid? Are we, because a lot of
You have to
people
look
be
at your
perfect
total
guys.
benefits
Well,
package,
Let me
right.
just
Right.
finish my sentence, if you don't mind. There are many employees here that they don't have demanding people. They don't go and demand raises every year, or they're very satisfied with their jobs. You know why? Because they have that insurance. So
Well,
they may be not getting what, you know, is out there, the standard wage. So again, please consider, you know, X amount of people are getting paid top wage, some aren't, and like I said, let's average it out, you know, to make sure. Okay, maybe this is a little bit more expensive, but if your employees are loyal, good employees who've stuck with you, and if they really, insurance is important to them, then you know what? Not such a big raise, but you can keep up.
You said it was a good point.
Well, that's what we're.
That's
Yes,
That's the internal discussion
That's
that
part
we're
of your
Yeah.
consideration.
No, but your input is
Thank you.
very good. And I appreciate it. And Pete.
I just have one quick comment in response to you, trustee Carabota, when you said nobody has these types of plans anymore. That's just not true. My brother-in-law works for ComEd, and he has a plan that makes our plan look like more of a Toyota Corolla than a Rolls Royce.
Okay.
Well,
I'm going to work for
I mean, no respect. I like
How
to
can
see
it be
it.
sweeter than this?
I like to see
Oh, it is, it is.
You know, and that, yeah,
What's the premium, guys?
I'm sorry, I could make a comment, and I know you're
Sure.
very familiar with
We have a lot
this.
to
Probably
get through.
self-insured plans,
Oh, there you go.
okay, are going to be a lot richer, yeah. No, we're fully insured, but like, you know, I'm glad Dave made the point of, because he understands, because he knows the business, that is exactly what happens, and I know you understand, you just mentioned, the plans out there have gotten very unattractive, but the rates have not reflected those unattractive plan designs. So unfortunately, what we have to face, if we don't, the only thing I'm really afraid great if you go out of the grandfather plan, because I don't want people to say, oh my God, what happened? It's only 2% less and now we have a $3,000, you know what I'm saying? Not saying that that's gonna happen next year, but every year you're subject to that. And like you said, the plans have changed so drastically for not enough difference. I mean, I know you're trying to save money and you're trying to do the right thing, but at the same time, that difference in exposure is so much greater than the savings and the impact that it's gonna have on sick people. So, I mean, that's all I was trying to say.
Yes, and I think Dave was saying that.
Yeah, so I appreciate you, you know, bringing that up because it's very part of all of this.
All right, we're gonna let poor Catherine.
It's okay, if there's anything else you
Really
need,
good
just let me
job.
know.
Really good job, and it does
Thank you.
sound like you just made the recommendation. But, I do appreciate everybody's public comments on this. And, next is, town fund and general assistance budget workshop. So, what was requested when I participated by phone, any, difference in line item, justification, yada, yada, yada. I don't mean yada, 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 it's a bit. So, Vicki did a absolutely tremendous job, then Dana and I, and Vicki, sat down and cut it even further. And so, this is, okay, so what we put, just to make it perfectly clear, what was on file was the amended budget from last August. Oh, sure. You guys want like a 5-minute break? Okay, everybody wants a 5-minute break. I got no problem with that. Okay, what happened was I went into recess for a rapid break from 9:06 to 9:11. And we are now reconvened, and we are on item 3. Maybe we should get the Torma contract. Well, all right, let's just do it. Town fund general assistance budget. And what Dana and I did, so I think I had started saying this, from what we gathered at the meeting, you wanted justification and reasons for any decrease, increase in line items and any changes. We did, Vicki did a tremendous job. When Dana and I got back, then we sat down again, and we sat down with the lawyer, and we've really took as much of a fine-tooth comb as we could. So, this is different from what had been previously submitted. All right, opening for discussion.
Can we just go, oh, sorry, I wasn't recognized. Claire and I both had our hands up.
Trustee McKenzie.
I just want to thank, well, you said it was Vicki and Dana and you and all the department heads for getting these budgets together, because I know that it took a lot of time and effort, and I appreciate you trying to meet the objectives, at least mine and my goals, and it really made it easier for me. So I just want to thank you.
Well, that means a lot.
I would second that.
We really, there was one day we worked 8 hours straight, so we were not leaving that room. Okay, so, I don't know that you want to go line item by line item. I just think that the best way is problems, like, you know, right?
I would rather go at least page by page and just look for things if we can go.
Page by page is fine.
And then, you know.
But, or how about because what it does is, you know, so the first page is revenue, okay? So I don't think anybody has a quibble,
Well, I have a couple questions.
okay?
I go up to the podium? or-
I'm sorry?
Is it easier if I go up to the podium?
Sure.
Can I put it together?
Yes,
So I can
absolutely.
ask questions?
So the first is, I did, as I mentioned to Dana, I went back and compared what we did in the last board meeting on the actual numbers of April 23rd and compared them to these actual numbers, and there were quite a few
But we went off
changes.
the amended August.
No, I'm not talking about the budget.
Oh, budget.
The monthly budget was corrected, and that was very helpful, so now we're actually comparing to the amended budget, and it's all, see that 100% is correct, that's great. The actual, I think you explained to me that you actually used just a target or something originally on April 23rd, so I couldn't figure out why so many numbers differed from what was actually
They're
presented to
now
us.
correct, right?
Right, now it's correct. We still sometimes have bills trickle in, and, so this is, what you're looking at now is accurate.
Is accurate.
Yes, correct.
So like the replacement
We
tax,
triple checked.
Yes,
replacement tax was $87,923.
correct.
So you used that, and then did something happen that trickled, that took money away as a revenue source?
Yeah, we got less money.
So less, actually, well, I mean, 2 weeks ago, you had 87,000 as though you had that for revenue. Did something happen where it got reduced to 67,000?
No, the number was wrong. I think we've established
Yeah,
repeatedly, and
Right.
I don't think that that's a good subject to belabor, that the numbers were wrong, the line items are.
What you're looking at is what
These are actuals.
These are actuals from income statements in February 28th.
Because now they're checked
2019.
by 6 months.
Correct.
And would we not expect any interest to be different than last year in terms of revenue because we have $1 million more in reserve? Or we're using the same amount? for
Which are you
interest?
talking about?
I'm on page 1 in interest income. It's 22,208.
But when you're talking about actual,
So, the interest income, that's hard to judge. I mean, that varies a few thousand every year. I left everything at actuals. Unless I felt that it really should vary for some reason, in which instance then I did explain, obviously, in the right-hand column.
Okay.
So I didn't think that was gonna make that big of a difference. And again, that really varies from year to year. There's no way of us to know exactly what we're gonna get in interest income.
Okay. And can you comment on senior programs that went, at one point it was budgeted that the revenue income would be 11,000 and it's gone down significantly? Was there a reason for that we were getting money in that we're no longer? If we budgeted that much, expecting that?
Marie? do you
no,
wanna
it's actually
comment on
gone
that?
up. I don't know when
It was
to.
budgeted.
Well, we
these are
budgeted,
revenues.
yeah, in
This is the part of the senior income that comes from the township.
Right, so we budgeted thinking, so what we do in revenues is we guess what we think we're gonna get in. So that maybe the previous year we got in around 11,000, and what we actually got in was 3,500 from senior programs under revenue.
Because Chris made us, like, instead of netting it, we had to,
That's the difference.
right, that's
Before
the
we were
difference.
netting seniors, right now we're not, we're showing the revenue separate from expenditure.
Correct.
So that's why that budget amount is different.
Oh,
Yeah, and if you look
Okay,
at
so
the
these-
next line.
If you look at last year, you'll see senior programs comma net. Now this year, we've actually made it correct and said, okay,
Yes,
here's the money coming in, here's the
Okay.
revenue.
actually,
You see
maybe.
the senior money coming out as an expenditure.
okay.
So it's, yes, and Eugene is underneath, 365 and 42.
Right.
Okay.
Main
I
seniors,
gotcha.
that's what really
That's why they're
seniors is.
combined.
Yeah, that's the program.
I mean, they're separated out, I should say. Okay, and then vehicle stickers was another,
That was being netted as well. So,
So where's the,
Vehicle stickers is being stopped.
We're skipping down.
meaning,
For the future.
we're not issuing vehicles to?
No, the Cook County won't let us. You wanna-
It's not that they don't let us,
No, they decided that they're.
it's they decided to go
ridiculous.
stickerless.
Right.
So there won't be any more stickers, actual stickers to display, so there's no need to sell them.
I know Chicago did, yeah.
Okay,
But
so it's
they-
automated?
People is only going to pay for the stickers, but they're going to pay online or by mail
Okay,
or in the currency exchange, I believe so. And, but they're going stickerless, so we're not going to sell next year's stickers.
okay.
When you lose a revenue,
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, right.
that'll change when they lose a revenue. It'll be
Oh,
bouncing.
yeah, I mean, they won't be able to handle it, it's gonna be a complete mess.
Okay.
I predict the following year they'll be good.
And,
But going back,
I can see that, I'm happy to see that change was made to move the food pantry to
I
town
like
line.
that. Yeah, listen to
Yes,
the guy.
we talked about that, so
Yes,
this
we
is
did.
great.
Yes, and that's why you'll see, obviously,
But
51,000.
actually, you know, this may not be, I was gonna ask Claire, you know, at the next meeting to be the liaison, because she's had a special interest in the food pantry, and written a great article about it. And, you know, I think it does better belong under,
Town.
yeah. So, but that added, you know,
That had 51,000, so you'll see actual under town fund obviously reflects zero
Right.
because it was under GA.
Right.
Okay, then if you want to flip the page, we start with expenditures. Administration. So the top of the page is just reflecting a total of all the departments. So it might be easier just to start in the middle, I don't know if you want to start in the middle of the page. I mean, this, like, however you want to.
maybe we should
Yeah, I think
just
it would
start
make more
under
sense.
administration.
That's what I'm saying, it might
Yeah.
make more sense to start in the middle where it says administration
I
and
think
then
it
down.
does. So we,
I have questions about the top part though.
Well, those are just some, those
no,
are some
those are
of all the
totals.
departments.
Those are
Right.
just totals.
So
So I-
those are just totals, but go ahead.
Yeah, so if you look at just the administration costs, they've gone up 20%, 19.7.
That's because we added 2 staff members.
We added Carol Lane,
Figure out from somewhere.
and then we moved Karen Cohen to where she properly should be classified in the senior department.
And if I can just,
Okay, so
And
that
maybe
amounts to
well,
359,000
Right.
just for the administration
okay,
difference.
if I can just explain. So you're talking about, first of all, just an admin, we're talking about increase just in the staff for salary and health insurance. And then if you move 2 people over, you also have to account for their salaries, their health insurance, life insurance, IMRF, and social security. So moving 2 people over is costly, but don't forget, I also took that away from the general assistance. So you'll notice that that's reflected also in GA.
Okay, so it's health insurance, life insurance,
Social security,
social
IMRF.
security, IRF,
Yeah, the whole count.
Yeah, right.
and everything will be itemized.
I did.
Dental.
It's all itemized. Yes. That's why it might be easier to go through the itemized
Right.
first, and then we
I
can
think
go
the
back to
itemized
this where it's
might
in
be
summary.
more helpful.
Yeah, I mean, overall, the expenditures between the proposed and the actual from last year have gone up $494,282.
Right, however, also, but you have to understand that's including capital funds, but GA also went down a quarter of $1 million. So it's,
Why don't we just go
Yeah,
in
you really
order
can't-
like we wanted?
can't really look at that number without looking at the rest of the numbers in the packet.
So, for example, under administration, personnel, salaries, employees, you know, until the such time as salary studies discussed, you know, ranges, all of that stuff. There's a placeholder there. director of 3%. And of course, you know, that, I mean, one thing I agree with our salary study lady is to hold off on merit raises until September. But I don't agree on cost of living. I mean, no, I mean, I agree with her. Anyways, you'll hear about it, but, so that's why that number went up.
Right, and then reclassification of food pantry director
Correct.
to the correct department. So I put the food pantry director under admin, and I put Karen Cohn in the senior department. So right now, this is just reflecting one employee.
As it says.
Right.
Okay, so the salary went up 12.1% between the actual and the budgeted that's proposed. The 570,180 to.
But you're adding a whole
639,000.
person.
You're adding a whole percent.
Yeah, that's what I'm just, so I'm,
Yeah, I didn't do the percentage.
and that's
so if
69,000.
If it's 12%, then that's what it is. Yeah, I didn't figure out the percentages.
Okay, so it's 69,000, so you're saying the salary between those two people?
No,
one.
I only moved
It's
to
a
Carol.
one Lincoln
I only moved to Carol Langan.
to admin.
And then
Yeah,
I
that's-
also did a 3% cost of living for everybody in admin, and there's quite a few employees in admin.
Okay, so in her salary's up
Placeholder across the
Her
board.
salary's for 50,000.
50, so there's 19,000 that are given
Yeah, her, I
3%
want to say her salary
raise.
is 53, and then I can think off the top of my head how many employees there are in admin, maybe 9.
And so the difference between the 69 and 53 is the raises of 3%.
Correct, yes.
Accounted for.
Right, and right, that accounts for like,
So 69,373 minus 53,000.
ready to turn the page?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So you'll see, as Dana, you know, put for the 366 proposed budget on health insurance, we're still on it. Okay. So is higher than the actual, and that's based on the 9%. I mean, it's 8.8, so it'll be a little
Yeah.
down if we do that, right?
Well, that's-
And also moving Carol Lane. So her insurance is now under this, as opposed to G.
Okay, because it's a 20% increase.
Yes. Correct.
So, did you use 8.8?
Well, it's 66,000. Yeah, right, 63. So dental stayed, you know, the same, you know, like, a lot of people don't take advantage, you know, they do, I mean, they go up, but
So, and life insurance went up, that was one of her attachments.
Yeah, tiny.
It went up slightly, but
and also we had to account for Carol Lane.
Right, thank you. So, yeah, so that was attached, so you can see the rate increase.
So, but what's I think important here is when you look at total personnel, between the actual and proposed, it's not like considering you moved over an entire person and her health insurance, along with those two, you know, placeholder line items, I don't think that's good. But, my opinion. So, now,
So it's roughly 26,000 for insurance and then, excuse me, for the increase in the 8.8 and then another 36,000 for her personal insurance. She must be in the family plan.
She must what? You can't really ask what plan she is.
I can't answer that.
Well, okay. I'm looking at the dollar amount, so.
Yeah, and I do see that new rate for the life insurance stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to be as thorough
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
really.
Yes.
Okay, and then the other attachment I had, if you look down on the page, is the TORMA, so the distribution. It didn't necessarily go up, say, as the distribution change, so obviously we have 3 funds, and really it depends on, you know, the claims. And so, looks like we absorbed a little bit more, it's not much, I think. but-
In town. as
In town
opposed to
fund,
jail.
correct, in town fund. So we just adjust.
For road.
Right, we just adjusted it. And I attached it to one of your attachments for further explanation.
It's also on here.
Yeah, right,
So
but
it
it's
was
the
like-
Torma attachment.
Yeah.
It was 52 last year.
52,
Correct.
Yes.
So GA and town fund absorbed a little more, road and bridge a little less. They had less claims than we did, we had more claims.
okay.
Yes,
And
unfortunately.
you just estimate.
That's why we're doing the
So
first.
yeah, I'm going to guys want me to do this. So this is, I literally averaged the last quarter. So it's hard for me to say what's going on for next, for this year.
So, Susan, next line items are all the same. Computer tech support went down. A lot. So until you get to, under contracts, right? Are you past that? Legal services,
I'm sorry, what about computer tech support?
it went way down.
And why?
We signed a
Because of
contract,
DPL?
Because of the contract
we
you
negotiated a
signed?
lower
Okay.
cost, yeah,
That's the 62.
Right.
Okay. I didn't know if there was some other.
yeah,
And he lost money.
yeah.
She's never letting us live it down, but, so anyways, yeah.
And then the,
And the same, look at
Police
print,
protection.
look at print management. So, yeah,
Yeah, print management was a cut in half.
Right.
Again, we renegotiated a contract with them.
right.
That's DPOE.
Middle of page 3. Let's move, let's try to. So is there anything else in here you have a question?
I just, police protection, did we change anything, or is that? I mean, I know that their actual were, you said,
No, it's the same.
because I saw 38 before, so I just wondered.
No, we just didn't get an invoice from them.
Okay.
Yeah, just that.
All right. Page 4 continues the. Yeah, the contracts, which are identical, except the total decreased by a lot. I mean, by 40, no, 60. All right, commodities.
That's all the same.
Yeah, it's all the same. Code
Okay.
enforcement is, I'm sorry.
So food pantry is the next thing that's different. So we obviously absorbed that. And then the biggest,
I have a question, actually. What does that number mean?
what number?
The 15, I mean, I helped through this, but I have no.
So.
Because she's self-sustaining, like the money. we
15,000 is
get
what
in.
we spent, that's what we spent in food, purchasing food last year.
Right, but it's off, okay, maybe it's a question for you. And then we'll zip through this.
Let's like Dana said, that's just the money we spend out of food pantry, so that was moved from GA.
Right, but my question is, so food pantry actually gets more money than like it spends, right? Because we got like, I have to
Sure,
announce,
yeah,
we got
we received-
3,000 pounds of food from the post office,
Yeah.
Friday. But, you know, our cash donations with the call to action were phenomenal.
Right, that's 51,000.
Yeah,
We're
so-
spending out 15.
We're, you know, that number is later on, so that's why I'm like, the 15, I'm not quite sure with
The
that.
15 is just what we're spending on food purchasing.
Right, because we have to buy, and box.
Yeah, any,
Okay.
yeah, any of those costs. are changing.
But I'm trying to explain that it's not really a expenditure.
Well, it's never, we still have to get away from, I know in the past we've been nothing, but anything that we bring in is still considered revenue. Anything we expend.
I
is still
understand.
considered
So, but
expense.
my question is this, for food pantry, when people contribute to food pantry,
Right,
they don't want to be it going to OEM, or, you know, they want it going to food.
right.
So, are we making that happen?
Yeah, I mean, that comes into play with paying everyone's salary and whatnot, other than when we receive property taxes, whatever we make on that, we use to expend that thing within the township. You say we should use
Do you understand
additional.
my question? Okay, you guys.
So we brought in 51,000,
Right.
and you have that, it's increased by
Right, yeah,
15,278, but the 15,278 would be subtracted
From
from
the
the 51,000, which would be about.
Where would I show
So
that?
you're asking what the net income, what
Right.
we're doing with that, that just falls into reserves at that point. And if we're not gonna spend what we're making,
She's saying that food pantry really doesn't cost us anything.
Right.
Because-
It actually gets
Because-
extra.
Right, because.
yeah,
On
it's-
a net basis.
She has to buy food. you know.
Right.
I
but-
know.
We get a lot of food.
But it
there's
comes
no-
back
but there's
in the
no
cash
cost
donate, there's
because-
no overall cost.
Right.
Okay,
Because-
so in other words, flow through.
Yeah, it's a flow through,
So-
that's it. It's a flow through.
Right. Maybe I'm confused with what you're asking. I mean, it doesn't cost the township
Anything.
at the end, but we
Well,
still
but
spend
it's
money.
deceptive looking,
Because it looks
because
like it
it
costs us
looks like we
15,000.
went up from 0 to 15,
Right.
you know, because we moved her over. It wasn't 15 even under GA, I don't think.
Yeah, yes, it was.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was 15 in GA.
Alright.
Because there's some.
But I think I had the same question.
Yeah.
Nobody could answer me.
I have a question though, do we,
I'm just trying to get this
Finish
answer.
one first.
So, if you have something, like, people specifically earmark, they don't, if I give money to food pantry,
Right,
I'm giving money to food pantry.
right.
One of the reasons I want to move it, you know, when under previous director, you know, people would give money to food pantry and it would end up
Right,
wherever.
right. I see what you're saying. I mean, we could always restrict the cash for a specific purpose.
I thought it was restricted, so that's sort of my,
Well, no, remember, the town fund is not a restricted fund.
no,
That is considered
but I thought
unrestricted.
food pantry.
but 15,000 is not enough to sustain the food pantry.
No, but it's 53,000
Right. That's in addition to.
or 51, so it's sort of a fake number is, I guess what I'm saying. It makes it look
Like we're spending.
like we're spending
15,000.
15,000 when really we're netting,
Well,
if
we are
you will,
15,000.
43,000.
Profiting 30.
Yeah, but we're just, I mean, it's just a historical account of where the expenses
All
are.
right,
So it's just a classification of every dollar we spend,
okay,
and these are dollars we spent on the food pantry.
yeah.
It just doesn't have the rest of the picture.
Well, that's what I'm saying for passports.
I was trying to, like, I didn't want Susan to get,
I mean, think of passports, we receive money for passports.
Yeah.
We make money on those passports.
Right.
There's additional funds left over. So we're not spending money per se, because we're making more than we're receiving, but you still have to classify what we receive as revenue and what we spend in checks, for what kind of expense. So,
okay.
and then, you know, the net, we're still ahead, but the accounting gotta show what's coming in and what's going out. Otherwise, we just have one statement.
I think originally it didn't have the going out, you know, the other part, but I think it
Remember, there's a
somewhere
change to
else.
this because we were netting a lot of things.
No, now, it is in here, well, when we get there, so let's move, plan commission.
I have a question on the food pantry.
Okay.
Well, I have my hand raised.
No, I'm sorry, go on.
I just wondered if we differentiate emergency assistance in the budget.
No, wait,
Pantry
no,
use more
food
money.
pantry just has nothing to do with emergency assistance.
So we don't get food for emergency?
Yeah, but are you talking about emergency assistance under GA or under food?
Well, that's, okay, so none of that food pantry is used for emergency assistance. That should be under GA. That's all it
No,
is.
no,
That's under GA.
Right, it should
Okay,
be. So-
when we hand out
When we
food, though,
did
that comes
When
from
we
food.
did it before, and we budgeted 15,000 in GA for food pantry, was some of that emergency assistance before?
Oh, they don't.
Probably,
I'm
Because
pretty
that's
sure
supposed to
no.
be once a year, and it should be differentiated.
That's
all I'm
it,
saying.
No, that's a different thing. I don't know what you're asking, so there's like.
No, emergency assistance always been separated.
That's a GA,
That's all under GA, any emergency.
but I
It's
think
supposed to be,
she's
right.
talking about if someone's.
So the food is under that too?
Yeah, food,
Okay.
personal essentials, emergency assistance.
Okay, are
program,
you
that's all
talking
under
about,
GA.
Susan,
Yes,
if somebody
I'm
comes
clear.
and wants food?
We got it.
I'm clear.
We got it.
Okay,
yeah.
that is out of food pantry. If someone comes and wants food,
Right.
they get it from food pantry.
Emergency food, I'm starving.
Yeah, they get it from food pantry. But that's different than emergency assistance. Okay?
Yeah, I understand that. That's my question.
Okay. Plan commission has not had, any need to meet. They, we're gonna tell them they do need to meet. Their charter, they need to.
Are you talking about the CMAC or, I'm sorry,
Plan commission is, the people that can object to a project in the unincorporated and trigger a 3/5 majority in Cook County. So we have that. But there has been no.
Last one was a pawn shop a few years ago.
Yeah, the pawn shop, they met, they triggered the 3/5 majority, and I think.
Not the pawn shop's there.
Oh, but never mind. Oh, yeah, she may want to know about that.
Pawn shop out in Ballard and Potter. That was disputed by the community planning commission.
Anyway.
We agreed with them, but
Right, the county.
Yeah, the county over, they actually passed it.
the
but-
place has been open for years.
All right, recovery connection's the same. Capital outlay is, okay, so capital fund is where you're gonna see the big difference. Right?
Right, so, you'll see total capital outlay last year was 24,000, now it's 256,000. So we did budget, again, if you look over to the right, we did budget 250,000. We only spent 17,000, but we would still like to budget that again. I did attach some of the projects that Mike and I worked on, that we would like to accomplish. Some of them actually are in the works right now as we speak.
Well, and this was also the advice of the attorney.
Correct.
It's not something that gets approved every year. You guys wanted a list, so we did an updated list. Some of them got delayed because of weather and personnel. And if you noticed, I don't know if you did, it was dark when you came in, the building is now all painted. And the bricks are getting done next week, so that it won't flood. It'll be the third phase of the flood remediation. Mike is going out to bid for the parking lot, and he's been in discussions with the engineer and with the law firm as to bid requirements, and so they were very. I mean, you want to put like what you want. You don't want to lower that. I mean, can you explain?
Yeah, that's, you want to have that in there, so if you want to do these projects, you have a budget.
Or if you do end up having an emergency,
Yeah.
your boiler explodes, like, last week we had a huge emergency.
Pardon?
Last week we had a huge emergency. But unfortunately, it flooded and we couldn't have access to the township because a water main broke outside at the senior home across the street. And it broke and flooded the entire parking lot. So Park Ridge, that's Park Ridge, and they came out and blocked that entire entrance. The other entrance was completely flooded out. The Ballard, whatever that is. That wasn't as bad, except Wally came over with me. I mean, it receded with, by 11:30.
Yeah.
And so, but it took, like a week for,
Yeah.
and we're still trying to find, the sinkholes. So, it's not us. We're all gonna be swallowed by a sinkhole, so we don't wanna do that tonight. Trustee McKenzie.
So I just want to be clear, the $250,000 capital fund account, we're just maintaining what we had already appropriated and agreed on. And so basically, we're just adding, for this year, because we spent $17,650, we're really just spending, we're just needing $17,650 to keep it up to $250, because we already had the $250 appropriated, we only spent $17,650.
Yeah. You got it. Right.
So we're not adding $250, it's just the same $250.
That's what you're appropriating for this year.
Well, we're appropriating $250. So it was never shown in the budget before. Remember? Like, we amended, even in.
It was shown in the budget.
Yeah, it was
We just didn't.
It was shown,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was in the amended.
Yeah.
yes.
Right, we amended the budget for that.
Yeah.
So that's what causes a lot of the, what? Okay, let's move. Okay. Yeah, no, move.
I mean, we could have a discussion about the fact that the projects that are itemized don't near that amount. It looks like it's more like
No, the point is,
two. I know
say
that
it
we
again.
want the
Yeah, just,
set in excess.
you don't want to have to come back and
Right.
have your budget continuing because you're going to spend money doing that, continuing again.
That doesn't mean you spend it.
Right.
And it also takes it out of the reserves.
So,
We had this discussion when we,
okay, so when you say it takes it out of the reserves,
correct, it's not counted in reserves.
well, I know it's not counted in the formula for excess funds, but how do you determine that the whole thing comes out of reserves? I mean, that's a different issue.
No, she didn't say that.
I didn't, thank you. Claire, will you explain it?
So the 250,000 in our capital fund account, we had already passed that.
Right.
So we're not increasing it and we're not decreasing it.
And actually, the resolution says we don't need to even have this discussion, but.
Right, we're not doing it, we're not changing it. So this is just the regular placeholder for what we already agreed upon as our appropriation for this fund. So nothing's changing. My only point was we spent $17,650. Last year, that's why it says that in the actual. So really, all we're doing is needing to put in $17,650. That's all. Right.
So, that's why you have a list of projects, that, and we don't know, we haven't gone out to bid. We don't want a bid rig, so we can't get estimates on, some of those things.
And so to be clear, all these projects, with the exception of what's already done, the painting.
The painting got done
Brick
this week.
pavers has started.
Pavers are starting.
Neighbors are starting, I talked to the guy today, the contractor, we're looking to go ahead and start that on Friday. I'm hoping, honestly, by Monday that'll be done.
Okay, and the parking lot,
That'll be done
Yeah,
in
parking lot.
July.
that'll be done.
I'm sorry? sorry, Mark?
July or August?
Yeah, we're.
Well, June, we're going out to bid.
Right, we're in the process of going ahead and getting all that, the specifications and everything else that needs to go into the envelopes, we're going ahead, we're in the process of that right now.
Okay, and then everything below that in your itemized projects are things we have to discuss.
Right, and I think a couple of them I didn't have.
No, we don't have to
on.
discuss them, they're part of the capital fund.
Right.
You guys wanted a justification. You
Yeah.
guys wanted a list, so I made you a list.
That's fine, but I'm saying it's not necessarily approved until we vote on this.
Not
Oh,
automatically.
each time, yes.
That's all I'm
correct.
saying, everything below the first
Yes.
3 items,
Yes.
starting with the community kitchen, the community room kitchen.
Yes, we come
floor
back
tiles and all
to
that,
you.
we're gonna come back to
Comes
the
back to the
board,
board.
vote
Yes.
on whether we do it or don't
Yes.
do it.
Absolutely.
That's,
That's a good clarification.
No, that's in the ordinance. As is the fact that you don't have to reestablish it every year. So, it just is ongoing, what Claire was trying to say. But it does add a lot to, you know. Okay, contractual services, where are assessor? So, they lowered a lot, because we, did not hire, the 13,000,
Is there any question about that?
Yeah, is there any
Where we
question
see
about
the
it?
assessor?
Oh.
well, I'm sorry, I didn't know we were moving to the next page. I was making a note. I'm working.
we have, Susan, honestly,
I'm a trustee and I have a question about contingencies. Can I ask about that?
Sure.
Okay, because this is new, it's a new item,
Yeah.
not a budget. It was in a budget before for $1, it's $10,000.
well,
We didn't have one,
originally,
why do we have contingency?
we have contingency because it's a way to spend reserves. And,
So this, I'll comment if you don't mind,
Yeah.
this was also suggested by Carrie Lynn,
Right.
so if we went over a line item,
Yeah.
then this would be, yeah, do you want?
So you have a contingency there, so if you do have an unexpected expense and you need to go over a line item, you can draw from that contingency without having to go spend the money to amend your budget solely for
After the
that
10%
one
rule,
unexpected,
right?
yes,
You can't-
expense.
You can't change more than 10%. of it.
Yes, there is,
So is the
so
contingency open to any line item we want within that fund?
within that fund, yes.
you'll see it in other,
And it's to avoid having to continually amend your budget
Yeah.
again and again, and obviously there's publication costs and things like that every time you do that, so.
Is that customary? Usually
Yes,
10,000?
yes.
It used to be.
well,
100
10 is low.
It used to be
I mean,
150.
It used to be 100,000.
It was 150,
Right.
that was at one
Yeah.
point, so yeah, we.
10 is
lowered it.
really low.
Yeah.
We tried to do. Okay, so, then we move to, assessor. Does anybody have any questions?
So, yes.
Okay.
So the, just clarification, so it looks like it went up from actual 6.7% from last year, from 185 to 198. And the explanation that you offered was Steve Phillips scheduled to work full-time
Correct.
for 6 weeks.
Yeah, we're having about an average, 400 people a day?
Well, we had 380 the first day. It's been up there every day, plus our phone calls.
How many did you say? 380?
No, we had on the first day, on
Friday was unbelievable.
This was packed, we continually packed, and we brought in 10 people at a time. And they brought to the desk, and we were doing all the fields. And we had,
The back room was packed.
bathroom was packed. Tons of phone calls.
It's a
Service
zoo.
people, everybody is, and you probably got your bills, right? Did you see,
Oh, yeah.
your
I've
assessment?
seen a lot of people
Sorry.
getting 50, 60%.
I did.
increases.
I got it, some people got 150%.
150?
Condos.
Good.
So Susie does, like, what she does is, we'll have like an entire room of people. She'll come out and say, anybody seen your exemption? Right? or anybody can know, you know.
And I talked to people, and they're all
Right.
very, very upset.
Really upset. So,
But it takes time to get through every person.
some of them, I mean, poor D got really yelled at.
So I have Dee here, and I have two people that have worked in the township that actually are coming in working full-time also.
Right.
But I have to give them an hour break, and my staff takes maybe a half an hour, because we just don't, we're constantly meeting people.
How
So we
many
don't
hours?
hire anybody.
Refresh my memory, how many hours a week is Dee normally?
She's part-time.
20? 20?
That was Friday, correct?
And open.
I'm sorry, say again. I think-
That was on
Friday.
Friday, that was Friday, right?
Friday.
Friday, and Monday, Tuesday was pretty much.
So, well, it's gonna go through June 4th. So,
Well, it's June 7th.
oh,
We're trying to get our residents to come by June 4th only because we actually
Right, have to
physically
mail.
take our paperwork and make sure that everybody gets in on time. We cannot fax them. We have trouble with emailing them. So we need a physical thing.
so, you know, like Doreen and Caroline and Miranda.
I've also
from
had
Jess.
calls from Doreen and Caroline, and
Right.
Tracy had a couple days out, so she's back. So,
So how does
yeah,
that
people
work?
just
Do you
want to
exemption
walk
people over?
over.
No, exemption people can leave. They.
What can we?
Right? There's exemption leave.
No.
Free, I'm sorry. We're talking.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, do you have any problem with anything else in here? In my budget? Is there anything that you notice that's outrageous or off-color?
It looks like the calculation for health insurance went up.
Well,
13.
As did
That's
an
for
admin,
everybody, right?
right? As did an admin, correct?
Okay, so it went up 13.5% instead of 8.8. Was that for some reason that I'm not aware?
13,
Went from 111 to 126,000.
that was actual, so 13. What is that?
I'm just saying the percentage is
10?
13.5%.
I don't have my calculator on me. I should have an assessor. I left it in my office.
So it seems like
It's-
it's
it's-
over budgeted.
Yes, increase based on renewal increase is the only explanation.
Right. That's it.
Yeah, so that number may go down if
Go
that's
down.
not.
Might
Yeah,
go-
I
Yeah,
think it
might go
was
down.
8.8.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is the 8.8.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get more money from that than what it is.
Oh, I know, when she first did this, it was 15, and.
No, it was 13.9 or
Right,
something.
and I don't
Don't forget, I put this out in November.
Right, exactly, so, we didn't catch this.
So it should be 121,362.
All right, so that'll be adjusted.
That'll be adjusted. Anything else?
Leasing, it's whatever.
Okay, gonna move to page 6. And, so wait, okay, so, alright, now quote, we're up to quote. And, so I think you see all the reasons, it's a, again, the same thing with personnel, that everybody, that we did in admin, right? Everything else is like, I think, decreased or actions. Management, I mean, you see, it's, I think some of it's self-explanatory. So clerk went up, what, 7,000? Not even, 6. Alright, so, yeah. Alright. No?
There's 17.
I'm going,
What, oh, I just
Yeah,
want to
there's
say,
only
there's only
17.
17, I'm sorry, I said 34. There's 17, don't
Right.
forget.
Right.
I mean,
No, but we've read through this before.
yeah, that's what I'm
so what I'm
saying.
saying is,
So,
There's, yeah.
Are there any?
we're trying to see if there's any
I'm sorry.
problems. Claire?
I have to go back to the assessor's salaries. To account for a 2% staff increase off of actual would be 189,316. So I couldn't figure out why the total went up by so much.
Because of D. So
That's
she added,
6,912.
okay.
But we added 13,000 on the salary.
Just the math
Percent
wrong.
stamp.
You have to realize she did this in November, so that's, okay. So, also, we may do a 2.5, bless you. I think we did a 2.5, because that's like,
It shouldn't be wrong, it should be 185 plus 6 is 191.
I remember
plus-
we did
That's
this.
what, right?
Plus 2% for her staff.
Yeah.
Is that not 198?
Oh, plus the 2.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
says. D. Phillips scheduled to work
Right,
full-time.
but I
Is
think.
it
Or
is it not-
6
Is it not
maybe.
198?
I think what you were saying is the 185 plus the 6 should just be 191, and there's 198 here because you didn't add the 2%.
You have to add the two-
on top of
right,
it.
she's-
I got 189,316 because I didn't add the part-time additional work
Yeah,
onto the base.
yeah,
That was,
it's
that's
here.
a special.
It's
But
together.
it should be after the 2%. So the base was 185,605 times 1.02% would be 190, or 189,316. Then you add the additional 6 weeks of 6,912.
But she's not getting the 2% for this. And it's
That's what I'm saying. So it should be 189,316 plus 6,912, or 196,228. It's not that much.
There's $2,000.
I know we did this now. But,
So instead of adding the 2% on top of the,
Okay,
on
so
top of
what's the
the
number?
6,
196,
you add the 185 plus,
196,228.
plus the 2%, and then add the 6,
Yeah.
I made the change.
12
Yeah.
afterwards.
okay,
You're
you
not
made
adding
the change,
the
what is
1%
what is it
on top
again?
of the
196,228.
Okay. 196,228. Okay.
Well, if you want to be exact on the clerk, you need to change it to 8.8 instead of 9%.
What? Wait, we're in the assessor.
I'm just
Well, then
saying.
stop.
I actually rounded everything up to 9, I didn't do 8.8. I would, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, can I now move on? Okay, move on. I mean, this is why we gave it a week in advance, so, now.
That's why I have the statistics. I calculated everything, put it on here, so I've been working on it.
But Susan, here's
So-
the thing, if there were numbers that were wrong, then you should send them to me. I mean, instead of, I mean,
I've been putting a lot of time into it.
This is what the
so did I.
This is what the workshop is for. Let's just get her done.
Okay, so can we move, does anybody want to chat about assessors anymore? No. Okay, so now in clerks, does anybody have a question? Or a problem?
I just have a suggestion that we like reflect, since, you know, there's so many different departments we do have, we can put the actual healthcare costs of 8.8.
I'll
I
change
couldn't
them all
hear
as
you.
noted.
What?
I'll change them all as noted.
Healthcare increased at 8.8 instead of 9%.
Instead of 9?
Thanks, thank you.
Just accurate, because it
That's all.
explains.
I rounded to 9, but I'll change it to 8.8.
Alright. So now I was back to page 7. So, yeah, you won't have a 6,000 increase. After the 8.8, you'll probably have a 4,000. Okay. Alright. Now, we're in OEM we're sort of in flux. You know, we've reduced that a lot, as you can see. So, anybody questions about decreasing?
Stop for a minute, he was just changing the tape.
Oh.
Okay, we're good. We're rolling again.
Okay. Anybody have a question or a problem with the fact that we decreased the OEM budget? I'm assuming you don't. Oh. All right. What? Oh, yeah. Now we're up to, oh yeah, it is. Okay. Total decrease. Okay, so move to page 9. Now we're in Maine State Youth and Family Services. 8? 8 is all OEM, so it's basically a decrease. Which I'm gonna assume you don't have a problem. Unless you do.
Anything else I need, or we go to the-
The vehicle expense,
So I got one of your attachments, I put the
Right.
invoice in there, so John Bennett, is John still there? Oh, okay, he was here. Just the other
It
one.
was him.
Okay, so all 3 of the vehicles needed maintenance. The brakes were out on one of them, they needed oil changes. So it was, I think it was about $16 or $1700 worth of work. But yeah, unfortunately, if there was an emergency, we couldn't have used any of them. So I gave you permission to get them repaired.
okay,
Yeah.
so,
And then I included the invoices in your packet.
okay, so we're going to, and that covers that.
Yeah.
Any buffer or anything?
No,
That's
no bother.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay.
Feel free to Alright, okay. Now we're on page 9. Any questions under personnel? Hearing none, you call the roll. Okay, contractual services, state, well, we decreased a lot, again, print management, so. Where you don't see an increase or a decrease, it's obviously actuals. So, again, computer tech support decreased. So, all good. Now we're on page 10. And, again, actually contractual services went down. So that was good. Commodities all stayed the same. We didn't give them any more. And I mean, I think the rest is, so the increase of 20,000 is from the placeholders. And would you like the same thing, Susan, where it's 8.8%?
Yes, Dana raised.
I'll do it for each
Oh,
number.
yeah. So that'll increase.
I just have one question on.
Sure.
Just what would, I'm just curious what the IMRF rate decrease.
It went down.
I
12.6 to
You have it.
10.6?
Right, we have
It's
it.
got an
Okay.
attachment. So the seniors, so this, here's a little different. So now the seniors, we did add this other staff member from GA. So you'll notice, obviously, here's where it looks like, some things do increase. But I did make note So placeholder of 3% if we do a cost of living, and then reclassification of senior advocate, which is her title, to the correct departments. So just so you note that, so it does look like they went up quite a bit. And then I also put her social security, IMRF, and all the other stuff in there as well.
So if you guys recall, seniors was down a person anyways, so it seemed better that the town board, that we have control over it, and it fit better. In my opinion, Karen Lynn's opinion, it's advocacy for seniors. So,
I'm sorry,
There you go.
so the $60,000 difference is because we moved
Karen called.
just Karen, right?
She makes in the lower 50s, and then it's 3%.
I cannot discuss the other one right now. We'll have to do that in close. Yeah, so, wait, are we, I'm so glad we're up to senior. So, yeah, that's,
So we're done with 10?
yeah, we're done with that. Moving right along. 11, Dana will make that adjustment on the health. And,
I assume the life is all changed with the new rate because of the new
Correct.
change that too, right?
Yes,
the attachment, and also because we moved
Karen.
So then you'll see the two decreases, which are really great throughout in computer tech and print management. So really, their contractual services decrease, okay? And their commodities, that'll, so when you look at that figure, don't be alarmed on the total, because again, the 8.8 plus a person. And the person. Does that explain it? All right.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Ready for page 12?
What?
Page 12.
That's
Okay.
it.
I thought you had a question. Okay.
I'm just verifying, that's roughly 92K, that's for a person plus health insurance.
Yeah. Well, health and this 3% and the
Versus
person.
3%, then how, yeah.
Alright, okay. Mental, and then you have to add at the top of page 12. Those are the agents. Okay. So, that is the total town fund. Now Dana, would you please explain how it really, even though it looks like it's that huge increase, it's like 50,000.
So, so it is, well, I actually did it on the very last page.
No.
We can wait to the,
Alright, yeah, no, that's fine.
yeah, let's wait till we get to the very end, and
Alright,
then I'll explain. I have an explanation.
alright, so, GA, for estimated revenues. So the revenues went way down, as you can see. The actual is there, but what's coming in because of the decrease for next year is, all right?
Okay,
So,
so can you talk, Krista, so we're estimating our revenues to come in for the GA fund of 600,000?
or less.
Even though we've abated?
Okay, so the abatements for next year You
Okay, that's right.
understand?
Okay,
So
so,
you did decrease 2 years in a row, 5%. So that, and also you don't get what you ask for. Once you do that, recall, you don't get what you ask for.
can we have Chris comment on this?
Sure, can you fill me in, please?
Property tax revenues.
First you waited till you walked out.
That's usually how it goes, right? Are we on GA?
On page 12,
Page 12.
the actual property tax from this past year was 814,277,
Right.
and we're expecting 600,000.
Right, so the way the tax levy works is, it works based off the Cook County's using the previous 2 tax levy years, since obviously the levy doesn't run concurrent with your fiscal year. The GA fund is still receiving monies from the 2017 levy, right, even though we abated 2018. And in fact, when I was doing the audit, we've actually received, and it's a little bit more, but up through the audit date, we've actually received $135,000 from the 2018 tax levy from Cook County, so they still send us money even after we abated, so.
Oh, they're going to for another year, but I estimated at 6. Her question is, and you had walked out.
If you could keep going, though, if you could, right where you stopped.
Right, so eventually what's gonna happen is the county's gonna ask back for that money, so I think as of right now,
For the 135?
I think it's about 160. I had my staff member look into it more past the audit date to see if we were still receiving money, but Cook County's a little bit behind with that, so until the abatement sets in, they're still sending us money, so at some point, they're gonna ask for that money back. And I do have Denise keeping track of those monies, so we know that even though we've received it, it's gonna be in our cash, it's not our money. We're eventually gonna have to give that back. And
Well, you're talking about 2019 is what it's abated for.
2018
It's a
tax.
2018 levy, though, it's called.
Yeah, it's the 2018 levy, but we're operating, what we got is from the previous, right? Because we reduced it 2 years in a row.
Correct. I was just making a point saying that we're receiving, the budgeted number, we're just saying is what we're supposed to receive.
Yeah.
Without
that's-
abatement, right?
Yeah.
So, but I want the board to know that when you
Right.
see your profit and loss statements from GA,
Right.
you're gonna be seeing additional
Exactly.
tax revenues that's really not our money.
Right.
Because they're sending it to us still.
So how accurate is the 600,000 that we're expecting for
I
revenue?
mean, you have to remember with Cook County, too, we don't know based on their property tax distribution what they're doing, because there's refunds built in there, and we're still collecting from the previous 2-year levies. So, I mean, you're not gonna get the property tax budget amount, you gotta throw in parts at a board.
That's what we, yeah. I mean,
This
we
was
could have
suggested
picked
by Karen.
500,000.
Yeah, I think Karen Lynn suggested this number.
Right.
Yeah,
I
so-
mean, you know, originally, I think it was 750 or something, and I said lower this. I mean, it's just not gonna be that, because we weren't getting it. And it's been lowered 2 years in a row, even before the abatement,
Right. And then
by 5%.
this budget amount, we're not taking into consideration the monies we're receiving from the 18, because you'll see with the audit report that that money is now set up as a payable due to Cook County Treasurer. So this 600,000 is just saying what we're going to receive from the levies that we have not abated. So basically 16 and 17 levies.
And you would concur that 600,000 is what we get from those 2 levies? Because that seems,
I mean, again, I'm not exactly concur with it, but I mean, we're just.
Literally picked a number. Karen Lynn picked a number. Because it's definitely not gonna be 800 and, like you said, we were still getting.
Right. I mean,
From
what's-
previous
what's gonna happen?
years.
I mean, even if we received 400,000, so what, we over budget, it's now it's the expense side.
Yeah, I mean, what is the problem?
it's not a problem, it's just, you know,
Education.
it's just whatever.
Well, okay, but that would be a better problem after the audit.
Let's move on to expenditures.
Page 13 now?
I mean, I would think that the thing that you were interested in is expenditures. you know, so I guess I'm overestimating, in my opinion, what we're gonna get. So, I think that's gonna be probably around 500,000. That's my thought. Anyways, so total estimated funds went down. All right, expenditures. So, administration went down by, as you see, and it may go down further. We don't know. But we also hired a director, and so, which is last time, as you know, as I said on the phone. Home relief went down by quite a bit. So the overall ending balance, where am I? Yeah, I think we can.
On the 13th?
Yeah. Fine with me. I don't have any questions. I just help them do it. Okay, why don't you guys just tell me where you have questions?
Yeah.
You know, rather than do this. That's what I'm trying to suggest. And, you know, like, the rest of the things you're gonna see are decreases on page 13. I'm assuming you don't have a problem with
And it's basically the offset between Marcia's retirement and the new director in Austin, right? That we're talking about.
that. For what?
That caused all the decreases.
No. We also moved the food pantry person and the senior advocate. So,
Okay, for out of the salaries. Okay, so hold on a minute.
and that's also because we added 3% for cost of living. So that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, so we
So
moved,
it's not, because
the majority of it is we moved 2 people out. It's 2 salaries, but then I also added in a 3% for, how many staff are there, Austin? 5 or 6?
Minus Karen,
Yeah.
Yes.
including myself.
Right. 5, okay, so I did that, so I took out 2 people, but then I added a 3% for 5, the existing, then 5 employees.
Okay, I'll just have to separate it to see the breakout of that.
Sure.
If you can get that for me, that'd be good. Because I know Marcia's was one of the, so it only went down.
It's on 13th.
You know, the breakdown is right there.
No, of the salary, of how that worked, because
So Marcia, you have to understand those 2, like Marcia left as mid-year, and then, you know, there was a period
also
of
the
time.
actual.
Yeah, it's not,
That's right.
honestly, it doesn't, it's not gonna work out that way.
Right.
Yeah, she
One
left
person left mid-year.
Right, so
Then
the
we had
actual-
an interim director making a certain salary, now he's making a different salary. We're all over the place with that, so it doesn't, it's not, the math isn't gonna work out, I think, like you're thinking it will.
Right, but the budget basically went down 100,000. considering
Correct,
All of
correct.
that, so.
And that's including if you get cost of living raise. They're very
Right.
good. Yeah.
14.
All righty.
I have a question about the general liability bond.
That's the cost.
It was 17,000, it's gone down significantly.
Right.
Redistributed
That's
based
your-
on what
that's-
Dana
that's your
said.
attachment.
Right.
Yeah, that's your attachment. So they didn't have a lot of claims. That's good, they didn't have a lot of claims.
Right,
Right.
went down $10,000.
Right.
Because GA didn't have any claims, there was no point, or less claims.
Right, and that's why the comp fund went up a little. It was just redistribution, the amount actually was the same. I think we paid Torma the exact same that we did the year before.
Well, if we get to
When is the
it,
Torma contract up?
it's in there.
It's in there, it's on this agenda tonight.
It's on the agenda, right? So that's,
It's today, yeah. Well, that's, no, it's not up today.
It's
I don't know when
tonight,
it's up.
we have to say.
It's on the agenda today, but I don't know the exact date it's up. Soon.
It's up really soon, it has to be.
Probably in the next 3 days if it's on the agenda today,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
telecommunications, I have a question about that, just, we don't need anything.
Oh, I'm sorry, I actually didn't realize I left that blank.
Because in the last.
Okay, that might be, that's
I
my
actually showed
error.
like 1746 on the last, on the April statement, so I don't know if that's what we actually spent.
Oh, you know what, I think we took that line item, I'm gonna double check that, but I think we took that line item.
We did.
Out. Yeah, I think, I'll double check it, but that should be zero, that's probably zero.
Because
Yeah,
with
it's
the
a special
phone system,
program.
it's like for the
Okay,
whole
and special
building.
programs, you see there's
Okay.
nothing, just that zero.
I'm sorry, where is it?
Okay, so if you look a couple up from telecommunications, there's a
Uh-huh.
line in special programs, just put in zero. My error, I forgot to type in zero.
Okay, and then telecommunications
It's
is
zero,
because.
zero.
Well, the line item, I mean.
Town fund eats the cost. There is, GA doesn't pay for all the
Okay.
phone bill.
Yeah.
Town fund picks up the whole cost.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in the past they did.
I should have, that whole line item just should have been hit and I didn't hide it.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, everybody ready for page 15? All right.
We have another contingency for 30,000 for that. Can you explain that one?
Kurt wants to
Yeah.
comment, same reason that the attorney suggested 10,000 for
Again, you
town
can have
fund.
unexpected costs, so you know, we have $1 placeholders for some things like that. You have a big claim come in, you want to have some contingencies there to make sure that you can pay it off without having to wait to go through the whole.
Carrie
bunch of
Lynn had
amendments.
said also a funeral, like the cost.
Yeah, a funeral,
of a
that's one
funeral.
thing that can
Okay.
come in, so
Because
you're not
we
gonna
don't-
budget
yeah,
for it,
right.
but you have
Right.
contingency.
That's why it's 30 for GA, it's only 10.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So
She
you-
went- she
it's
said-
unexpected, you don't wanna have to wait and have to go through a, month and a half long amendment process. You can have a contingency there and have it right.
What? If a GA person, a person on general assistance dies, we can pay for their funeral. Under certain circumstances, like, we came close to that one. Yeah. But because she wasn't approved for GA, no. So you'll see that under funeral, it's $1, right? Because the actual was 0. So she said to make it a contingency.
Okay.
Okay? And so you'll see food pantry now 0 because it moved. So total commodities reduced, 15,000. Total home relief reduced 15,000. Total general assistance reduced 150,000.
165.
165. I thought it was good. And, that's it.
Okay, so I want to make one comment.
Have we had much change in our essentials for food? I mean, through the course of the year, just the number of people? I know we're budgeting the same.
Yeah, that would be an Austin question.
Sure. It usually fluctuates in terms of clients. I can't anticipate how many clients are going to come in a certain month, more than we had. Based off of our statistics, recently we've been fluctuating between 19 and 24 individuals, so we can't possibly know if that number's going to go up a lot in a year or not.
Okay, I thought for some reason from the start to the end of the year, we reduced it by 5 or so. But maybe that's not consistent, I can't recall. So,
Okay, if you can flip to 16, so before we end, I just want to point out something. So the very last line number where it says total appropriations, if you can take a look at that. So you'll see, obviously, we're asking to budget 5.322908, $5.3 million and some change. We're saying last year our actuals was 4.9 million and some change. Okay, so I know that was very high. The difference between that is 329,493. If you take away the capital fund, which is 250,000, which I want to remind you, we accounted for that last year. However, we only spent 17,000. So that was counted, Chris, if I'm not saying this clear. So we had to account for that in our bottom line number last year, but we didn't spend the money. So now we're accounting for that again. If you take out the 250,000, we're only 79,000 over, but we're only asking for $79,000 more than actuals. Did I say that right? Okay.
let me.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 8.8%.
Actually, it will be less, because the 8.8%.
Life
I did not.
insurance, and 3% is a placeholder for,
And here would be my question.
Yeah.
We only, to bring us back up to the 250 level, that's only 17,000. Because we spent down, we have 250, we spent down 17.
Right.
We're not throwing in another 250,000.
But you-
We're throwing in 17,000, correct?
Well, no, I mean, you're really, no, we're throwing in 250 minus the 17.
So I can put in 233.
We said spent
technically.
17, we had 250, 250
That's
minus.
right, that's right.
So I can change it to
Correct.
233, is that?
Yeah, would you?
Yeah, yep, yeah, so technically I
well,
can.
no, because it refunds every year, like, I don't.
No, it'd be much clearer though, it would be much clearer.
So you're only gonna be able to spend out of the capital outlay 233
Right.
this year.
Which
Because that's what
is
you're
not what the
appropriating this
ordinance
year.
No,
says.
we want to keep it at 250.
Yeah.
So that's why you want to have it the appropriation at 250, because you can't go over that amount unless you have it appropriated for this year.
Here's where my grab is. From that 329,000, how can we say that there's an additional 250,000 in order to fund the fund that already has 233,000 in it?
I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a difference between the actual amount that's in the fund and what you're appropriating. So you have to appropriate the funds to be able to spend it this year. So if you might have the funds in reserve for the capital expenses, but until you actually make that appropriation, you can't spend the money. I guess, is that,
That makes sense to me.
yeah.
See, if you're saying that there's a $329,000, $330,000 difference.
Right,
Hey, Dave, 250,000 that really we're throwing in for the capital fund.
right.
Because there's 233,000 already in the capital fund. We're only bringing it back
No,
up to
it
seven.
doesn't.
We're only bringing it back up to
No,
seven.
no, no. Would you? No.
So that's, I guess there's a difference between, it's not like a bank account.
Right.
That, the capital fund, that's basically what we're gonna say, we're gonna spend 250 potentially out of our capital reserves this year. So that's your capital fund outlay. So we're not saying that's how much is in there, they're saying that's how much we might spend this year on capital projects.
So what he's saying is we could spend 230 plus the additional 17 to get you to 250, so there's a cushion. in
I
there.
understand that, I understand all that.
Yeah.
Just that to say that the increase of 329,000 is based upon the 250,000
Because it's
outlay.
actuals
Because
versus.
the 250,000 was in the budget last year.
Right.
Right, so
spend that.
we didn't
Yeah,
spend it,
we
so
didn't
we're moving that expense forward to this year. So that's why Dave was explaining that.
That's why it looks
There
like it's
there really
inflated.
is no increase.
Right, it's
Because
a
we
big
didn't
increase.
spend
Right.
250, we spent.
So it just looks like it's super inflated when it's not really inflated. Yeah, by that much.
We showed an expense last year in the general town fund, in the budget, of 250,000, but we never spent it.
Be nice if we could add something that's a clarification regarding that shows that because,
Yes. when we-
because anybody who looks at this, they're gonna say, okay, you're throwing another 250,000 in capital fund when you're really not.
And the problem too is because it's really, that number is now in your beginning balance number
Right.
is higher than it would have been because we didn't spend that money.
Right.
So I mean, you can't, I mean, the budgets are, you know, they're at the, it's your budget.
If you could look at that
Yeah.
and maybe do something to make you feel better.
I mean, we could always like put an
clarification.
asterisk here and say, hey, you know, this is what happened, you know, just explain
Good
it
idea.
here. So,
However-
so the public can see that.
And again, all those projects will come back to the board before you spend money. You don't have to
Right.
spend that.
No, I understand that.
He's saying
When the
the
public
won't
looks
get
at
it.
it, and they're looking
Right.
at, hey, there's 329,000.
They won't
It's
understand.
not, they're not gonna understand that.
Yeah.
Do you
They're
have
not.
an asterisk?
No, you absolutely, put that. There's no legal issue.
Yeah, something that would
Yeah.
show like capital
You can
funds.
adjust the number on the top.
We could, I mean, we could even do that, we could.
Right.
I mean, we can't really like
You
change.
can't
the-
take it out. That's.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
Right, so if you could come up with some wording and email to me.
Sure,
Yeah, I get
sure.
it.
Or adjust the number at the top and bring it down.
So, I think we did a really good job.
Dana, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Chris has done a great job.
Thank you. Next item, thank you, Dana, is we have road districts.
I don't think I can see it.
I'm with you, but we can't go
I
through the
have a
same.
trial, I cannot keep doing this.
Okay,
I'm gonna be soon.
just, how about the trauma? We have to, I
Okay.
mean, road district needs a.
Is it gonna be, it's gonna be discussed whether she's here or not?
Yeah, right. So, okay, so we'll move to accommodate that. We'll move the, which I don't have a blue-backed copy of this trauma contract, do I?
You need Toyman? What, invoice?
I just need.
It was in a more pocket, right?
Right.
Right. I just don't, usually I have a thing.
I wasn't told to do that, I don't know. It was just before, I don't know.
All right. So, I need to, I don't have the authority to spend this much money, which is $120,577. Going to make a motion that, and the due date is June 1st, which is why it's, it has to be there about the like ahead of time. So, I'm making that motion.
Can you just adjust the motion though to clarify, it's $128,577?
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, I'm sorry. $128,577 for all three funds, I would like
And
to.
there's a second.
And there's a second. Having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion or any discussion?
Question, what's the, do we go out to bid on this? Or-
On Twarma?
Yeah,
It's not required
it's not required,
for insurance, no. This would
I
be a
didn't know that.
professional service.
so it falls under professional service. I mean, it's not outrageous to ask because it's.
No,
No, it's just,
I don't,
yeah, they're
No,
below,
but-
I mean, this is
So
what
it's
every
what they do.
municipality does, and
Question.
every township does.
every municipality uses Torma?
The township, the vast majority of townships use
Yeah.
Torma, not municipalities.
I mean, not municipality,
Townships.
township.
It's the township risk pool.
Right.
Okay, is there a big advantage to using that? Where's it called? Because,
Claire really does have to leave, so is this,
They work
It's a valid question.
with, they work with TOI closely. I know that their offices are actually in the same building. So they do know townships generally.
The prices are generally the most competitive because that's what they do, is
in
township
fact,
insurance.
it really hasn't gone, up a lot. It's the
I just
apportionment.
personally think it's good practice to go out to bid regardless, because of the, especially given the amount of money it is.
Okay, I'm gonna call the question. And Clerk Gulamis, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Morass?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Swing?
Yes.
Okay, so that is passed, and Trustee McKenzie, you're excused.
Thank you.
And now we will go to the road district budget workshop. Okay,
If we could do that quick.
all right.
Yes,
I find
yeah,
oh yeah, I already know this.
the amount that I asked for total expenditure is like 2,000, 2,500 more than last year. A lot of line items were lessened because of the death of an employee that wasn't replaced. Last year, the budget had innumerable overages because, in a sense, I was trying to fit a certain amount of money and do a guesstimate on how much should be in each line item. And when you have a half a dozen or or more line items that are out of whack, it's kind of hard to transfer funds. I'd like to use most of the savings and salaries to shore up those line items and not have that situation reoccur. There will be a major expenditure in equipment. We're getting a new sweeper. After the $20,000 trade-in, it's going to be a $200,000 machine. So that's why I transferred $150,000 from general fund to the equipment fund. Some of that might be mitigated by sales that equipment, the auction will either start late May or sometime in June. They had a lengthy discussion the first half hour about the presentation for the capital improvement fund or the road improvement fund. I think that's worthy of your consideration. If there's any questions or comments, I'll take them.
Can you comment on administrative salary expenses that went up 5% when we had?
Yeah, well, part of it was I was under budgeted by about $1,800, and there was a pay raise, a proposed pay raise. A lot of my employees, administrative, Dawn and the foreman, Pete Duvalakis, they have added responsibilities because the director is no longer with us. And, they should get a decent raise just to accommodate that fact. Myself included, I'm doing things administratively and contract-wise that I wasn't always that intimately involved with since the passing of the director. So,
And what was that salary that was offset then?
well, the offset of the one employee not being there was spread across throughout the budget. And probably 80% of it was ensuring that, various line items that were underfunded last year.
But I mean, so your actuals last year were 60,806, and now you're proposing to spend more than that by 5%, but we have a salary decrease, so I'm just asking what the salary is.
That's one person's salary. It's not, he never got a piece of that particular line item. That was Dawn, the administrator.
He wasn't included
His savings would be in the permanent road fund and the general road fund for maintenance.
That's what his salary was.
Well, what his?
She wants to know what Bobby's salary.
Oh, it was $100,000.
Right. So basically, you may paint the replacement, but he doesn't want the title.
He doesn't want the title.
Right.
He doesn't
So
want.
he's not making with Bobby.
He doesn't want one of the vehicles to be driven home.
It's gonna be.
He only
Okay, I'm
gets
sorry,
50.
where did that's not under admin salary, then I should be directed to another spot, right?
No, because an admin salary is just one person.
Okay,
The 4 laborers and foremen, you notice that their salaries, because particularly in the permanent road fund, was $50,000 less.
okay, and where is that, can you direct me to that on these 2 pages that we have for the budget, the tentative actual and budget? I'm just trying to look for that complete.
You're looking at the,
Okay, I gotta go back to, I was looking at the 2-page.
Yeah, this is a two-page.
yeah,
Oh, you did,
Labor.
okay, sorry.
yeah, let's the line item on the bottom of the first page.
Okay, labor on roads,
Yeah,
second page top,
right.
that's what you're talking about.
Permanent road fund, labor on roads.
Okay,
I'm estimating that it's going to be $290,000.
So it's gone down 50,000.
50,000.
Yeah,
And the
that's
reason that the cost didn't go down as much for the general road fund maintenance salary expense was because, in essence, the gentleman who passed didn't work that winter. So that's a true reflection of how much we expect to spend. But he was there for the vast majority of time for the permanent road fund, and he received his salary. So that was a bigger drop.
Since we're on that page, I have a question about that, because the engineering services were minus 6,137.
Yeah, well, that was because we had 52,000 in engineering fees from Aqua. That was this project they were working on. They used the same firm that made the presentation earlier. And we paid for the engineering fees, and then we get reimbursed by the client, which in this case was Aqua Water. They're not planning on any major project this year, and we are relying a little bit more on the engineering firm to do a portion of what the director had done in the past. So we don't anticipate, getting the $50,000 or close to it spent for that particular line item.
I'm just not clear why,
No, okay.
what did we get refunded by them? We got 6,000 back?
We find.
No, we got 52,000 back. If that particular expense was not put back into that line item, it would be around 44,000 spent, or $46,000 expended in engineering. But they gave us that money for the services rendered for the water utility. We applied it back to engineering. That's why it's minus 6,000. But in reality, it would have been about 46,000 in true expenditures if that occurrence did not happen. If they didn't do that project and they didn't utilize the engineer. So you understand that?
Also, didn't they have to pay a fine?
Yeah, they paid a couple $1,000 fine.
Well, I thought it was clear.
And we anticipate we need more engineering services from them?
Well, yeah, we saw it today. Normally,
Yeah.
yeah,
This job.
they didn't come here for.
Right. And that's what this is Spaceco, or the
Spaceco, yeah.
Spaceco, so it's 40,000 for Spaceco?
Well, that- there are engineering firms, so,
I didn't know if there was another firm as well, or it's just
No.
Spaceco, or...
we haven't been using. I think they changed firms a year or two before I started.
Can you offer an explanation for why some, like the big, obviously, equipment and building fund went up from 129 to 225?
Well,
Did you say
I
that?
said we're gonna buy a sweeper.
Right, that's the sweeper
That's the
only?
sweeper.
Okay.
Yeah, with the trade-in, the sweeper price was 200 grand, and in essence, it's part of the municipal league arrangement, that conference.
It's a joint bid.
Joint bid, so we don't have to take that out to bid, it's part of that, how would you describe it?
It's like an intergovernmental joint risk like bid pool where they
Right.
go out on a contract and then they
We
let
do the
us.
same thing with salt.
Yeah, you piggyback off of the bid that they've already.
We don't
Yeah.
bid for salt, we join the Central Service Management in the state of Illinois and the Cook County Board and Salt Agreement. So so they set the rates for tons of salt.
So why under permanent road fund, you have drainage of 10,000 when you only spent 1,000 last year?
Well, that could change if there's flooding or culvert breaks. And we have to, well, you can tell in the unincorporated area, you have these ditches, there's pipes under there usually, and if it gets damaged, it has to be replaced. It was just a matter of it not being that type of situation where we had to expend that kind of money. It's more like preventative, or not preventative, but anticipatory, as opposed to hopefully not actual.
Could we just go back on the permanent road fund labor? Again, was there a presumption of salary increases?
Yeah, there'll be salary increases.
But that's not under permanent road fund.
Well, no, there's
Well,
three
that's
spots
labor.
for salaries. One under general fund administration,
Right.
one under labor for general road fund, and one under permanent road fund.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
even
what I'm
with,
asking.
even though there may have been increases in pay for the remaining people, it still resulted in a $50,000 savings.
Right, so we have one employee of 100,000, but we're reducing it 50,000.
Okay, as I said, some
So
of his,
that's why I was asking what percentage.
some
you
of
have
his
out of
salaries,
Salary.
salary that is no longer there was given to other line items that may have been deficient last year.
In other words, it wasn't given a salary, is that what you're saying?
No, 80% of it was given to various line items.
Okay, wait, so what's in labor, so the other 50,000, there was a $100,000 salary cut.
Yeah, and some
But
of
there's
it
only a
went into.
$50,000 cut, so
Okay.
what percentage are you giving for salary increases?
Okay,
To that other 50,000, you're giving 50,000 in salary increase?
no, I would say 18 or 19,000. But see, you have to remember this. The situation, let's say with repair of vehicles, that was woefully underfunded. It was 65,000, I think we stopped, 77,000 plus or something. We took a portion of the gentleman's salary and put it there as well, not just giving somebody a raise, but also shoring up other line items that were deficient last year. His $100,000 didn't go back to, the remaining employees' salaries.
Well, but it is under labor, so
No.
labor went from
You can
40
change
to
labor. If somebody leaves, you don't have to hire a new person. You can take that money and put it somewhere else. If you have line item deficiencies from the previous year that you want to shore up. There's no commitment to saving it for labor.
And last year's budget for labor was $335,000. And this budget is considerably less than that.
Yeah.
So our previous budget was for
Well,
labor.
that's a reduction of 45,000.
So that is a reduction actually
Yeah.
in budget that we
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, does anybody have any more questions? Okay. Hearing none. I think, we make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, sorry, Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?